Wanna join me? Come and play, but I might shoot you in your face. Bombs and bullets will do the trick. What we need here is a little bit of panic. Do you ever wanna catch me? Right now I'm feeling ignored.
진짜 터프했죠. 으라차차 하나전차가 불을 뿜습니다. 네, 그러니까 조합을 넣는 제금 잡고 간다. 하나생명 소리까지 내고 있습니다.
아우 맛있어.
에이스 하나생명 DRX 꺾이지 않는 꿈. 원래 상대 꿈을 잡아먹는 게 또 꿈간의 싸움 아닙니까? DRX도 꿈이 있거든요.
아 제발 나이스.
야, 환상적입니다. 아니 이리 시각에 페이트 벨이 막 돌아가면서 멋들어지게. 그래서 DRX 엄청납니다.
Hello and welcome to the LCK 2023 Summer Playoffs. We are here to bring you Homolife Esports up against DRX, our third place and sixth place teams. Homolife Esports selected DRX, as was their right here for round one of the playoffs. This is a single best of 5 to decide who is going to make it on to the next stage of playoffs, round 2, which is where double elimination does begin. I'm Valdez, with me is Chronicler. What do you think about this match?
On paper, this should be the most one-sided out of any match that we will have within the playoffs. Obviously, it's the biggest gap in the standings between the teams. Homolife have looked excellent against any team that isn't better than them, which at the moment looks like it's only KT and Genji. Those teams, they haven't done very well against, but everyone below them, particularly since Grizzly has been with the team, they've been a hallmark of consistency. And if you thought the DRX miracle run last year was impressive, they're going to have to do something similar if they want to make a splash in playoffs, because today is going to be a big test for them.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to make it as far as they can in the playoffs, and of course they do have already the seed into the World Qualifier, which is where we get to see if we will have Barrel at Worlds again. Here are the standings at the end of the regular season. This is why, you know, Homolife Esports for round 1, they got 3rd place, so they have the selection of which team between the 5th and 6th place team. They did select DRX, and not a big surprise, because even through T1's struggles, it was without Faker, and Faker is back, and they have looked pretty decent since coming in, and even though they aren't looking amazing, I do agree that DRX the weaker opponent. So as you mentioned, should be a one-sided match, but who knows what happens in best of 5s.
We have seen some big surprises come through, some upsets happen back and forth, but as we can see, for the entire year, Homolife has been able to get the better of DRX. Now, I would argue that DRX have definitely only been in a form where they should even be making playoffs in like round 2 of summer. Even in round 2 of summer, we saw that Homolife was able to dispatch of them pretty handily, because DRX are just still a team that is pretty inconsistent, as Homolife setting their best regular season record versus a DRX that was reliant on a number of things to happen for them to even make playoffs in the first place.
All LCK 3rd team Zeka Viper Life. It did turn out that this season being kind of a tier list season is what I've been calling it. You know, KT on top, you got Genji right behind them, but Homolife is a very solid 3rd, and so a lot of their players make the LCK 3rd team. It just ends up being that way as the 2022 Miracle Run Champions Meetup. The 2022 World's former teammates of Kingen and Zeka up against Barrel here in playoffs. Now again, both of these teams will get themselves a chance to play in the World Qualifier. And also you've got a chance, if you get first place here in summer, you can just get that direct seed.
Yeah, but both these teams are guaranteed a spot, or a chance to fight at a spot rather. We'll have to see what actually ends up happening. Again, DRX, their run last year was obviously one of the most insane ones. I argue the most insane one in world history. But it also had a DRX where, at least at some points, we saw glimpses of the peaks of the players. It just didn't all come together until Worlds. I don't know if we've seen that peak from DRX, which is what I think they're going to need against Homa Life, because Homa Life, they might have their fair share of struggles facing against the teams better than them. A lot of the things fall apart, but they are a really consistent team, as we can see here as well. If they are feeling confident, if they are feeling stronger, and once they get a lead, they don't really let go.
Yeah, very high average Baron power play gold means they take a lead, they hold on to it. Let's take a look at this, as Captain Jack has been the only believer so far of the DRX Miracle run. Let's see if anybody else joins him on the global side, as you see a lot of 3-1s and 3-0s outside of the meme vote from Captain Jack, as you will see the same from us.
Yeah, Jonas Strong not even touching this one. That's how you know that it might be a little cursed. Captain Jack, though, absolutely based, voting for Jiwoo left and right in his whole pro as well.
Yeah,
Based on what? We're not going to discuss. That's a whole nother thing. Fan predictions here should be overwhelmingly in favor of Homa Life. Never say never. It's never impossible for a team to get an upset. If it would be, I think it would be either through the collapse of Grizzly. This is, of course, his first playoffs. So there is a chance that this player isn't able to deal with the pressure. And we'll see what happens here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hear, though, right now from the head coaches of the teams as we hop over to that right now.
네, 안녕하세요. 하나생명 e스포츠의 감독 최인규입니다. 스프링 시즌에 비해서 저희 성적이 좀 더 나아진 거라서 만족스러운데 지금 계속 그 신기록을 써가는 과정이라 더 좋은 성적을 위해서 달려가도록 하겠습니다. 이제 상대 팀들 선택할 수 있는 이제 T1이랑 DRX 전력을 분석했을 때 저희가 이제 최근에 이긴 DRX가 조금 더 붙었을 때 승산이 있다고 생각을 해서 고르게 되었습니다. 딱히 긴장을 하는 선수가 아니라서 다전제도 크게 달라질 건 없다고 생각하고 있습니다. 저희가 스프링 때 못 다 푼 한을 저희 썸머에서 꼭 풀어보도록 하겠습니다. 감사합니다.
네, 안녕하세요. DRX 감독 김목경입니다. 일단 저희가 엄청 힘들게 올라온 만큼 좀 저희한테는 되게 간절했던 플레이오프였기 때문에 올라온 만큼 더 기쁘기도 하고 더 좋은 모습 보여드리고 싶습니다. 일단 저희는 이제 경기가 끝난 지 사실 하루밖에 지나지 않아서 다른 특별한 준비라기보다 이전에 준비해왔던 것들을 더 단단하게 하고 또 하나생명만의 좀 저희가 파고들 수 있는 그런 부분들을 어느 정도 생각해서 준비해왔습니다. 아무래도 월주 우승자가 3명이나 있기 때문에 이제 장기전으로 갔을 때라던가 중후반 때 그런 이제 경험이 많은 선수들에 대해 운영하는 단계에서가 좀 걱정되는 부분이 어느 정도 있었는데, 사실 저희도 이제 라스칼 선수라던가 이제 베릴 선수가 있기 때문에 그 부분도 저희한테는 크게 걱정이 되는 부분은 아닌 것 같습니다. 힘들게 얻은 기회인 만큼 선수들도 그만큼 더 소중한 기회라는 걸 모두 다 알고 있고, 오늘 정말 후회 없는 경기 보여드리도록 하겠습니다.
So there you have it. We got to hear a little bit about why Homa Life Esports chose DRX. You know, a great record against this team. It just makes sense for this year. And also, Grizzly apparently is unaffected by nerves. So that's kind of cool to hear on the Homa Life Esports side.
Makes sense. He has looked very consistent outside of his first few matches where he did struggle a little bit.
Yeah, and we do have the new cheering that was introduced by two of our hosts. Let's introduce our players here. This is Kingen, a world champion in his own right from last year. He's looking to make another run here on Homa Life Esports.
The Rock of Homa Life, a player that is, I think, the most consistent out of the whole roster, bar maybe Viper, able to always provide what is needed to his team.
He's like, do I go now? Have you done the cheer for me? So this is a new a cheering kind of thing we are doing for the playoffs, by the way, guys. So get used to it. As Rascal, always a guy that has been a pinnacle of the top lane and is trying to make a mark on this playoffs, especially after he wasn't able to make it last time around.
Also not necessarily his best split. I think kind of caught up in the struggles of DRX, and we'll see if he's able to rise to the occasion the way he's done in the past.
Grizzly Whiting. And this guy is unaffected by nerves. I think he's unaffected by many forces of the universe.
Unaffected by weights.
Yeah, exactly.
They mean nothing to him.
He can lift anything. And can he lift Homolife Esports into round 2 playoffs berth? It's looking pretty likely.
And one of the few unknown factors going into this playoffs. I think Grizzly's performance up until this point should earn him our faith until the opposite is shown.
It's so funny how they're like, oh,
Do I go?
yeah. This guy recently won my heart. The Croco fan club earning some new members with his recent Zac play. And he's just been getting better and better, which has been good to see, especially after he was really slumping.
Yeah, he was. It was good that he was subbed out, because it really hurt me seeing what the player had fallen down to. But now we're starting to see the trademark aggression that categorized him when he was on Sandbox, but a bit more applied in the right way.
Zeka adding to the strong top side of the map for Homolife Esports. Actually has gained a lot of respect from even us on the global team for his solo carry performances, especially on his Ari recently. Did earn himself a spot on the all LCK third team.
Also, I hope the allegations of Zeka being a two-trick will finally die down. The man has played on a lot of different champions. Tristana's another one that he wasn't really allowed to have. And Round Robin 2 in particular really ramping up throughout the split.
Here is Fate, who has recently hopped in, his Jace being a big performer and definitely a very important spot here on the DRX roster.
And Fate is a player that you and I always have been a fan of, but just didn't have the best of performances throughout like the last year and a half. A large part of DRX, the 2023, also not looking too hot, but recently together with Croco, that mid jungle duo really reinvigorated.
Viper unaffected by the fan cheers, but he is kind of the president of Homolife Esports' squad currently. He will get the damage done consistently in the late game and is one of the best AD carries we have here in this region.
In a pretty stacked role, I might add, Viper still manages to find a way to stand out. And in the darkest days of Hanwha throughout this year, he was always the one keeping it together, making sure the team still was able to pick up a decent amount of wins.
Paddock, one of the new members of the DRX roster for summer, was one of the academy players, so tier 3 here in Korea, that was brought up, and he burst onto the scene, was really good, had some struggle streaks, as did all of DRX, and now he's really reached his form.
Really impressive matches recently, excelled at Desire, able to have better teamfight positioning than we often see from our rookie players. No need to step up today if he wants to make a mark and try to beat Viper out in the bot side.
Life making the all LCK third team wasn't necessarily one of the big guys on our list on the global side, but definitely has been a very important role here alongside of Viper to hold down the bottom lane.
And Life really is similar to Kingen to me. He's not the flashy support that makes the big plays, but he is always there where he needs to be. Right place, right time, will very, very rarely be a loss condition for his team. Compared to the next guy who's a bit more volatile.
And this guy just will not be denied. He will have his playoff spot. He will have his world qualifier spot. even after having one of the most struggling performances I have ever seen of a player. He comes back, and he is back to play once again.
And for about 80% of the year, Beryl did not look good. Was a big weakness of DRX. Not able to keep it together in lane. We've seen a lot of performances where he did get taken down repeatedly. As the entirety of Hanwha take a bow here.
And they're like, oh, what do we do now? Yes, now you sit down and you play the video game. Let's go, High Life Esports. This is DRX on this side. Rascal's like, yeah, I'm just gonna play the video game. Actually, I don't, you know.
That's a true top laner, unbothered by what the rest of his team is doing. As we are going to take a look at the key player matchup. As mentioned, Zeka in round 2 has just been great. This player, I think particularly in spring, has been very up and down. Had some carry performances, but outside of that was either invisible or an active problem, not allowing them to control the mid-jungle 2v2. But ramping up in summer, you know, a second year in a row might be starting to call that a Zeka hallmark at this point.
Yeah, turns out everybody on the set of DRX basically knowing how to ramp up at exactly the right time. And it's becoming a thing. All these players on the former DRX, I should say.
Yeah.
Making their way back into a top spot. So this is going to be pretty interesting as we are nearing our first draft of this best of 5. Again, this first round of the playoffs is single elimination. So remember in spring, Hum Life Esports was able to quote-unquote upset D+ Kia and knock them out right from the get-go and make things pretty interesting. Maybe DRX can do the same and get revenge in a way for D+, but it's not looking likely from the predictions, from what we have seen, from the fact that our 6th place team was struggling with 4 other teams on the east side of the standings. And I think they only got in with 6 wins total, which is not a lot.
They did. And if it does happen, I think there are 2 things that we need to take into consideration. One is the jungle matchup. Croco, not necessarily the best track record, as I would know, having seen him both not make playoffs or drop out with only 1 game left to go in a Worlds qualifier, which I have not forgotten. But Grizzly, this is his first playoffs. Coach mentioned that no, Grizzly is unfazed, unbothered. And if that's the case, I think DRX will actually have very little openings, because trying to exploit a jungler that doesn't have as much experience with how important mid-jungle is right now could be one of the openings. The other one are the drafts. I do think that DRX, even in their recent matches, have showcased some of the flexibility and creativity that the Zach stole your heart, mine as well, was a really big fan of that. And if they can get like a really great draft in game number 1, set off the best of 5 in dominant fashion, that could be an angle for them. But outside of that, you gotta imagine just the average level of play of Hanwha Life is so tough to deal with for a lot of our lower tier teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And keep in mind also that DRX, they faced off against Kwangdong Freaks in their last matchup. They were heavily favored to win that. They did win it 2-0, and Kwangdong Freaks were struggling more than any other team at the end of the season. So
yeah.
DRX, you got to kind of bounce off of that, and even though it looked good, it felt good, now the competition is like 5 tiers above what you just faced. So it is a bit of a bounce, you know, and maybe they will bounce into this one with the Zach, as the bans are being thought over long and hard as things get just a little bit more tense with playoffs starting.
And we already see the LeBlanc still teams not wanting to deal with it, even though the pick has been varying success. Jax still strong even without Sejuani. Rascal very comfortable on the pick and doesn't really have any hard counters in the meta at the moment that we have seen be successful. The Rumble really dropping after being somewhat highly prioritized early on. It's going to be the Jason stat, so Fade getting some respect there as well. For DRX, Kai'Sa, yeah, not giving Viper Kai'Sa makes sense. Tristana also one of the most flexible picks. So Maokai still open, Renekton still open, Nico still open. A lot of power still on the board here.
Yeah. I like the Renekton. You take away the Jax. There hasn't been a really good answer to the Renekton. We have seen the resurgence of Cassante coming in, just in general.
Yeah.
Will we see that again? Xayah has been a big pickup, especially with all the Kai'Sa bans, which has been kind of, Xayah, Kai'Sa going head-to-head a lot. And they're going to pick that up alongside of the Nico here very early on, which has also a very strong track record.
Homa Life are gonna have to decide what they want to do. There's two options. Either you try and go all in, draft aggressively, go for, say, a Vi here, maybe Ahri for Zeka, and try to overload. But you are playing into Xayah, champion, which definitely can have a great time into type of short-range engage. So it's going to be the Renekton and the Azir here for Homa Life.
Some things never change.
Yeah, some things never change. Doesn't matter which lineup we're on. And with the jungle not yet picked up, a Maokai here would make a lot of sense. I think it's just a very well-rounded jungler that slots into effectively any single composition. And Grizzly, even after having a really tough debut on the Maokai, was able to bounce back in subsequent series and showcase his mastery of the champion. As DRX will be something that obviously Rascal is very comfortable on, but we have not seen the Aatrox be successful out of the early few games. A lot of games kind of being lost before the Aatrox gets his 2 items, gets to be online.
A lot of okay. And my meme nowadays is that I love the Nocturne regardless of the draft. This one is going to be pretty interesting though, especially alongside of the Xayah that isn't necessarily like a dive 80 carry in this meta.
So
going with the Nocturne.
I do love the Nocturne here. And a large part of that is because of what DRX did yesterday's in their Challengers games, which, there is a lot of movement between the two teams. The specific combination of not knowing where the Nico is going to come from with Nocturne is really tough. Nocturne also does really well into the Azir because you can play aggressively into him and hold Spell Shield for the ultimate. And it also frees up the potential for flanks. I would like Homa Life to try and ban as many engage supports as possible, particularly ones like Rakan that have a lot of mobility and a lot of great flank setups, because if you get surprised by Rakan and with the ultimate from Nocturne, you don't really have a choice. Could be a problem. But Homa Life at the same time, like this, I think they're going to go full standard here. I don't think we're going to see anything crazy.
Yeah.
It's just going to be a team fight composition. A lot of power, a lot of flexibility of how these picks play out.
This is kind of a rough spot for Homa Life Esports now with the Alistair band away, because the Rel is hanging. You definitely want to get rid of that, but Nocturne is still a champ, or not Nocturne, Nautilus is still a champion. Now I'm doing what Wolf used to do, mix up those two. But yeah, I feel like Nautilus, just for some reliable engage alongside of what you already have, is really strong. He's really good in this meta. Let's see if Beryl does want to pick it up, but instead might want to wait and save counterpick for after Homa Life Esports pick their bottom lane as Rumble.
So I like Rumble into Renekton. I think the pick has been somewhat undervalued recently. But the setup is not amazing. It really is only the Nico rather, that is able to reliably provide CC, and that's an ultimate. So even if you get a Leona or you get a Nautilus here, whichever Homa Life leaves open, I have kind of a tough time seeing how you would actually set up. And Sivir, as was already mentioned the last time we saw this, has a really, really nice playstyle into the Rumble. You can Spell Shield, you can press your R, run away. And DRX right now don't really have the consistency that you'd look for when it comes to actually having people be caught on top of an equalizer, right? There's no Maokai.
Yeah.
There's, outside of the Nico, not a lot of AoE lockdown. And Homa Life, this is very cookie cutter, but I do think it's a very strong draft. The only thing I'd be a little bit worried of is that you can run into some early game issues. I don't think you've given yourself a lot of power outside of the Renekton. And DRX definitely have some level 6 spikes that are very threatening.
Yeah, pretty scary. Let's see what Beryl does want to follow up with. He does love his Leona, and that is going to be the choice. Was hovered by Life, but then Life decided, no, I'd rather play the Nautilus. I feel like if the Leona was picked, then the Nautilus would be picked, but now the Nautilus was picked, so the Leona was picked on the other side. Just, not the largest pool in the support role after so many were banned away, namely 3. But yeah, it's pretty interesting how we do round out this composition. I feel like DRX definitely some trickiness within that composition, whereas it's very straightforward on the side of Home Life Esports.
Yeah, Humble Life have a composition, great disengage, great hard engage, a decent amount of range with Sivir and with the Azir. But I think I like the DRX comp if they can actually execute upon it, and that will be tough. I think Humble Life have shown that they don't really give a lot of openings to many other teams. And if DRX don't execute this comp well, if they're not on the same page, if the paranoia isn't lined up with an equalizer, with an ultimate from Nico, trying to find a flank with Beryl getting onto the backline somehow, composition falls apart really, really quickly. So they set the bar high for themselves. For Humble Life, you don't give anything away. You get a lot of comfort and a lot of team fighting power.
Yeah, Sivir once again returning to the LCK stage. Actually also saw that recently, played by Humble Life Esports, I believe, in at least the series that Humble Life Esports was playing in Challengers. So all of that coming back to us here at the LCK playoffs as we're just about ready for game number 1. Let's hop onto the Rift and start off the LCK playoffs. And here we go, game number 1 of this best of 5. You win this, you move on to round 2, you get double elimination. You lose this, good luck in World Qualifiers. And we'll see if either of these teams would be able to make a miracle run if they do make it to that stage. Well, when they do, go to the World's Qualifiers.
Yeah, both teams will have a chance regardless of what happens. With how the last season played out, and given that, you know, Gen.G and KT are definitely, not in that order, but the front runners for making it to the finals with how tier heavy the LCK has felt this split. Humble Life actually looking really good to snatch the topper end of the qualification bracket spot, meaning that they have 2 chances as well there. For DRX, obviously not going to be the case unless they make a crazy run, which would have to start it today. Want to take a look at Rascal's runes because he did not go for Ignite, which we'll see if that is excusable according to Huni. Because if he, as he takes a very bad level 1 trade, because if it is Scorch, then we'll collectively be a little bit disappointed in him. And
it's Scorch.
We do have the unfortunate confirmation that it is.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. We do have Ox on the desk today. Ox and Wolf will be joined by Lore, actually.
She's back!
Make it back to Korea. Very jet-lagged, but here to go. Here ready to go. Kingen, by the way, is 12-0 on Renekton. It's pretty good, you know. It's not 13-0, but we'll take the 12-0. And now Rascal might have to flash. I don't think he will, actually. It's now another level 2, actually, from the side of DRX on the bottom side. Life not really going to respect that, looking for their own level 2. And he will have to flash himself.
Favorable summoner trade here towards the bot side of the map, but at the same time, Rascal, yes, you can be very strong as the Rumble, but you do need a couple of levels. Renekton early on obviously has a lot more power, and Rascal really struggling, already having to go through his pots. And going to be kind of a sitting duck here. And Kroko with the Nocturne not necessarily expected to have an early impact. But, you know, Beryl starting off aggressive, not looking too bad. Life not having his flash available does mean that down the line, for example, with a Nocturne gank or around an early Drake fight, no flash being available for the Nautilus can create an opening. We'll see if DRX is able to actually use that.
Fate doing a really good job of putting on some early pressure underneath the turret, getting the push in the mid lane, trying to gain a lot of priority there, especially with the way that the top lane is going. Yeah, the Renekton into Rumble early on, just, you know, probably second wind. Don't remember what he had actually with the resolve, but you've got that, you got the Doran shields. He's going to get a very nice cheater recall off here after stacking that top wave. And just going to pick up a Doran's Blade, so he is really going all in on this lane.
Yeah, Rascal went unflinching and bone plating.
Oh.
So definitely not going to have the best sustain when it comes to trying and dealing with the early damage. And yeah, Kingen going all in on the lane, like investing this much, getting a refillable and a Doran's. Gonna have to try and at the very least get yourself some plates, as we do see Grizzly And this is to be expected, right? Humble Life should not be able to contest early on for scuttles, for neutral jungle objectives, outside of playing through Kingen, because looking at the 2v2 life it's pretty tough for Humble Life, and also for Life, because
on Humble Life.
Flash. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Glad we got through that. By the way, Rascal, he teleported back in the lane. The lane was pushing away from him after the bounce on the turret, so Kingen was just able to walk. Rascal now down a teleport, so still going to keep our eyes on how that top lane is going, as it is definitely a very important lane when it does come to these two teams, I'd say.
And we've seen top lane actually be relevant recently. Like, top laners get leads, and then they get to use those leads, which is just...
Yeah, that's just...
a very foreign concept.
It's weird.
This can be... catching this crash can be a bit awkward here for Kingen, but as long as he dodges the harpoon, should still be fine. Gets the cannon as well. Not going to be too bothered here early on.
Still has teleport. He went back, got a refillable on top of the Doran's Blade. 2 Doran's items and a refillable.
Oh, yeah.
You're basically... You don't have to leave unless you really want to. And Rascal will try his best to poke him out, but it's not going to be easy. As you can see, already a small CS lead given over to Kingen.
Rascal will be able, though, to get himself the crash here. Wonder if he actually wants to go back, or if he's just... Oh, yeah, if he's going to try and go and shove in the next wave as well. Could be an opportunity for Grizzly here. Well, Kroko will spot him.
Hello. That's what Maokai sounds like.
Sure, makes sense.
Yeah. Viper is going to get locked into here, as Beryl will force this flash out. Once again, just Beryl's out in force, man. He's going to force 2 flashes early on. This guy is just inevitable.
Let it be known that Beryl also has a skin on this champion that he never uses. And that Beryl was a large part, and I just want to reiterate this again. If you just tune in for playoffs, you don't really watch LCK throughout the year. This is not the Beryl that we've been seeing.
No.
At all. There's been a lot of laning issues for him, in particular throughout spring. Was obviously really, really rough, but even in early summer. And it wasn't really until round robin in 2 in summer that we started to see some improvement. And now no sums available here might mean that DRX can leverage that into some early pressure on a Drake. Kroko also is very close to level 6 and has actually been able to build himself a pretty decent CS lead. So could be looking towards a gank. Mid lane here, the setup obviously great. If Fade hits a root, Zeka gonna have a really tough time to get away, and you can't really scoop up a Nocturne the way you do with many other champions.
Yeah, absolutely. As Kingen finally forced out, but again, he has teleport, so he'll be back with probably a whip, assuming he... Oh, okay, just gonna go for the pickaxe. As now, DRX gonna get started here on this dragon. Life does spot it, but Life will find his way down to the bottom side as Kingen teleports back in and is already taking a trade here that Rascal did not really respect, as now he's running into the enemy jungle, just trying to get away. And he might even be able to get a back off, as Rascal will have to... Yeah, he's just going to get a back off.
Yeah,
Kingen not able to get on top of him.
Yeah, because Kingen has no idea where he is, right? So even if you go into the jungle, might not be able to get the kill, and if you chase him all the way and you don't get him and he just executes, then you're going to be feeling pretty bad. But definitely a close call there for Rascal. If you die to the Renekton, that matchup becomes a nigh unplayable. Fat Renektons are not really something that any champion has been able to deal with in recent times, as good wave position here for Paddock, and it looks like they are aware of Viper and Life. Kroko also now 6, so would not be surprised if they want to try and play towards it. Did not go for Ultimate Hunter, so I do think you have a little bit more leeway. If you get that, then obviously your first Paranoia is even more important than usual, trying to get those stacks and further reduce the cooldown.
Yeah. Definitely pretty important, as both teams, it feels like at this point, playing it very cautiously. Like even Viper and Life down on the bottom side, they say, okay, Viper doesn't have flash. We have this wave pushing into us. Let's not take any chances. Kroko's level 6. We don't know where Beryl is. And he's going to have to lose, 2, 3, 4 CS for it, but it keeps him alive. Even though in this case, as we know, it wasn't really in too much danger, outside of Beryl, who was hiding in the side brush. Also, the top side, Rascal not going to chase in the jungle, doesn't know where he is. Maybe Kroko's there, you never know. So just gonna play it safe, just continue with the lead that he's got.
And Rascal actually is going to be able to get himself, and this is what we are expecting, right? The early levels are really tough for the Rumble, but once you get some AP, has his short pen boots, so it's easier to space away from the Renekton, while simultaneously your damage is a lot more relevant, as we do have rotations coming through here. Might have a 3v3 here, do know the power of Paranoia.
It's a bit late though, I mean, they're just gonna smite it away. Thumbs up from Rascal as he does get rooted down. Zeka's got an opportunity here, but the Paranoia comes in. Only gets the knockup of the Pop Blossom here on Zeka, who does get the sweep, but it's more of a disengaging one. You see Humble Life Esports a little bit cautious again, as Viper is going to stay on the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, big thing there is Humble Life don't want to get drawn into an actual longer fight, as Rocco going in here.
Yeah, Kingen not really scared. He's got some backup here, Life with the depth charge. That's first blood. As it seems like Croc was not expecting quite the extra guy to be there.
Yeah, Life surprising him. Rascal isn't close because he doesn't want to give away the gank that is being set up. And really nicely done there by Life, sticking around. And I think Humble Life wanted to disengage there because Paddock was ahead of the roam. So if you get drawn into a 5v5, you might run into some big troubles. And if Xayah gets fed, then the game gets a whole lot harder. Getting a kill, though, is big because it goes to Kingen. Of all the guys, definitely the one you wanted on. As we take a look, a little bit slow here, then we see the Paranoia come through, which makes it really hard to adequately respond. Grizzly is able to flash away, but here again, Barrel's already here. Yeah. And even though Life is close as well, who doesn't actually get spotted, which I think is a really big reason of why Crocker tries to go for this. They don't actually see Life, I think. Maybe that they spotted him like somewhere else.
Actually, that
really good hook.
Life,
Yeah, really important.
The fact that he identifies, okay, Krako's got flash, so I flash hook, and that allows me to make sure that this gank is going to work because, you know, in a 2v2, an extended one, you don't really want to stick around. You just want to burst down the Nocturne 100-0. So really nicely piloted by Life. Good position. But at the same time, DRX, they did get the Rift Heralds. They get a little push up here on the top side, and they should be able to at least take down a couple more plates with this crash. There it is. We'll split one apiece, and that's already 4 plates in the top side going the way of DRX.
Also going to mean that Kingen, even with the kill, I expect him still to be a decent amount of gold behind, just because Rascal has been able to mostly equalize the farm and then also pick up all those plates just with the pushing power of the Rumble. Kingen not able to match that even with the early whip, as Barrel is here.
Yeah, Zeka gonna get the 1 dash away, but can't chain it in. The flash comes through, Paranoia as well, and flash out of Zeka. Is it enough as the damage is there? Fate just gonna throw a Q over the top and picks up a kill onto his opposing mid laner.
And Zeka sidestepping as much as he could there, but not going to be enough. DRX, Barrel making his presence known there in the mid lane.
It's inevitable.
Stop saying it, Valdez! We're not acknowledging it until it actually happens, okay? I thought I was casting with Valdez, not with Atlas today.
Whatever you say, Chronicler.
But it is a really nicely set up gank there from the DRX. You see again the amount of power that the Leona has together with the Nico in situations like this ends up being big. Zeka does get to shuffle away, but Barrel sets it up with the Q, and even though they don't actually get the root or the knock-up from the ultimate, the Fear Tether still works, which means that, you know, he's just standing there while the Nico Q ends up taking him down. And we do have now the Dragon being started up, so that will be a kill in mid traded for a Dragon. And we have basically only good souls still left on the table.
Hoping it's not Ocean, as it will be Hextech. Hextech Soul on the table. Both these teams really going to be making runs at those Drakes. And for a good reason. Especially with Sivir and Xayah. Just them alone, not to mention everybody else. So we'll get pretty interesting pretty fast, and Humble Life Esports should be able to hit some spikes before then, but DRX definitely showing up here already for game 1.
Yeah, I think DRX have the benefit of both. They're being the underdog, and I think their draft gives them a lot more agency in the early game. Right, Viper doesn't even have an item yet. Zeka is going to go for what looks like Crown as well, which I do think makes a lot of sense into the DRX comp. But it does mean that this Humble Life comp doesn't really start possessing a threat until you are sitting on 2 items at least. You need to get at least an actual damage item for Viper. Does have his Kraken now. And then Zeka again, crowned first, is going to keep him safe, but his damage won't really spike until he gets what probably will be a Nashor second, and he can start actually out DPSing in later fights. So that does mean that DRX have a lot of room. We'll see how well they're able to use it, as it's a lot of plate gold.
Yeah, the 4 plates in top, the 1 plate in mid, probably just through the natural pushing that Fate was doing early on, plus the gank that they got onto Zeka, is enough to at least get the 1 plate. And yeah, I mean, outside of the itemization and the items that will eventually need to come through for Humble Life Esports, they do have really nice target acquisition, what with Nautilus, Maokai, and Renekton alone, not to mention the Azir for follow-up. Especially compared to the side of DRX, who kind of just need to go all in if they're ever going to start a fight, right? You got to get that Nocturne in. You have to get your Leona into a backline. And outside of the Leona, it's not like a huge amount of hard engage. So don't quite have as many tools as Humble Life Esports in terms of like a flash Renekton stun or a flash Twisted Advance, stuff like that. So Humble Life Esports, if they can pilot it well and, you know, select one target and go all in on them, they will have the damage regardless.
I think it's also important to note that the DRX comp, as we get to the late game, is not going to be able to deal with Sivir autoing, right? Like, just the Boomerang Blades are going to shred through everyone that isn't Barrel. So when you get to the point where we're sitting at like 3-4 items, I don't think the game for DRX really is winnable, barring some like insane coordination in the later game team fights. They do have the tools, but DRX this split have not really given me a reason to believe that they can pull that off against a team as good as Hanwha. But we'll see if they're able to like get the second Herald, pick themselves up like 2 extra Drakes, set themselves up for an early Soul Point. Definitely could be an angle, but I think Humble Life getting a Dragon actually really makes a big difference, because it buys them so much more time to when they need to 100% fight.
Yeah, absolutely feels pretty good for them, as we do have Fate on the way, but again, that's Sivir, so it doesn't really care about your route.
Oh, and Master King. And
yeah, and now DRX is going to go all in on the second Rift Herald, as you do try to use it for that first one, but that first Hextech Drake, as we do have Kingen getting to work on that bottom turret.
definitely going to go. Teleport coming in.
Yeah, there we go. Grizzly looking to set this one up, as Life is going to miss the hook, and it's smote away by Grizzly, who will take this down. Pop Blossom only hitting the Renekton as they're trying to burst down Kingen, and they should be able to. They finally do get there, but it's so much use all into the Renekton, and that is going to be the follow-up win in the fight to the side of Humble Life Esports, as Life is thinking about it, but the rest of the team will call it off.
Unfortunate fight there for DRX. Nicely done by Humble Life. The threat that Kingen provides means that Fate can't actually get onto the backline. And that's when this composition falls apart somewhat. They also get the Herald, meaning that they get the bot side turret, right? Gets first Turret Blood, get the Herald, and they win the team fight. And with a composition that definitely has plenty of power and scaling, Humble Life going to be feeling a whole lot better. And as we take a look here again, Fate doesn't actually have a way of getting onto the backline here. And the smite is one thing, but you see as well, Rascal isn't really in this fight. Fate gets completely zoned away by King, and yeah, King ends up dying. Who cares? Doesn't matter. The fight is won. He's done his duty. And a bit disjointed there from DRX. I'm not sure if they were 100% ready for the full commit, because you saw like Rascal wants to flank from one angle, Fate from another, but then when Humble Life pulled the trigger, they weren't really ready at all.
No, not really. And I mean, you have to expect that kind of thing. It feels like almost every team in the LCK is going to fight over the second Rift Herald regardless of situation. So Humble Life Esports especially, like I was talking about before, you know, they just find an enemy target, just try to isolate them one, and Kingen did a great job of doing exactly that, getting onto that weak Nico and forcing the Pop Blossom only onto him, and made the follow-up from DRX very disjointed, allowing them to win the fight. As now Beryl, he is Leona with the clips, but there are three members. We do have the equalizer now coming down. DRX looking for a follow-up, but Beryl is going to get away. A big sweep is going to catch Rascal, and there's nobody to help him here, as he is doing an insane amount of damage into Life, but it's still a dead Rumble right before the Drake fight.
And if DRX lose this Drake, lots of them staying in this game, definitely going to plummet. Pretty essential. Fate just getting poked out there by Zeka and Viper. We didn't even mention Viper yet. Also was able to pick up a kill in the previous fight. Positioning has been great. And the really big difference that I want to highlight, and what I think is also the reason why many of us favor Hanwha so heavily, is the way that Hanwha are able to play around waves. Like, look at the CS leads that have been built up just from mid-game, because DRX are dropping so much more waves to try and force his barrel!
Well, speaking of forcing, he's dead. So, inevitably, he will go in, I guess, as now Kraka will follow the same extremely disjointed fight here from the side of DRX, and Hanwha Life Esports are like, I guess we'll just kill you then, and we will take this Drake as well.
And again, the way that Hanwha Life deal with these threats is just so hard to deal with. Barrel going in when Fate doesn't have access to the backline just doesn't work at all. As we can see now, another Dragon going over, and so it starts off with Barrel getting caught, right? Life again doing a great job, finds the hook, and then it doesn't look that bad because the equalizer comes through, but unfortunately for DRX, they don't actually have Nico, whereas Kingen is able to join the fight very, very quickly, so they get the lead. And then I want to, again, pay attention here. If Fate can get onto this backline when Barrel goes in, this can work. Look at Zeka. Look at... He's just standing guard. There's no access at all, and Kroko shouldn't have pressed that R button. Just let it go, because the moment that Fate doesn't actually get behind them, that play is over.
Yeah. Also, the fact that you're flash queuing onto a Sivir, and yes, if you do hit it and you catch Viper off guard, then maybe. But again, it's Sivir with Cleanse, too. So on top of all of that, it's going extremely hard into Viper, one of our best, you know, Captain
He's still a
Jack-style 80 carries, who is going to hit those buttons right away. He just spell shields the Q from Barrel, and he's, like, just laughing at him. So... yeah, as you mentioned, he's got both sums. This game feels like it is already in the bag for Hanwha Life Esports, but let's see what DRX have in terms of their trickiness. I'm not sure if it's going to be enough, as Viper is already 1,000 gold ahead of his counterpart.
Yeah, it's hard to see an angle here for DRX because the execution of their combos thus far hasn't really been that clean. And they are falling behind just on map gold because, again, you see them taking a lot of shortcuts. The bot lane turret was a really good example. They want everyone at the objectives to try and 5v5, but it does mean that Hanwha Life like shoves 2 turrets in, or 2 waves into the turret, is able to pick up the turret as well. And that's why right now Viper 20 CS lead, Zeka 20 CS lead. And these are really stacking up as the game continues. And I think DRX have one more fight in them. If they can take out Viper, take out Zeka early on, maybe there's an opportunity, but outside of that, things are not looking up here for the underdogs in game number 1. And Hanwha, they can take all the time they need.
Yeah. I like their patience.
Well.
Yeah. They're just kind of standing guard, and they're saying, okay, we're going to wait for DRX to try to force an engage and just respond to it, essentially. They haven't gone too crazy except the one time on the second Rift Herald. They're not going to start up this Baron just yet, because they're not in position for it. DRX really trying to make a play for this, as they're going to go in onto Barrel here once again. Not always the best choices. Grizzly is just dead. I guess that was the opening they were looking for, as Kingen is winning this 1v1 against the Rumble, and we'll feel pretty good about that at least.
And we'll see, because you kind of want to try and go for Baron here, but with Viper still alive, with Zeka there, with Kingen having teleport, don't know if you can actually do that. They are going to try, though, and you might not get another opportunity like this in the game.
Yeah, gotta send it, and that they will. It is a 4v5, maybe looking for a turn as well onto Zeka, who does identify it, gets away for now, but can't really get away from Krako, who's just going to fear you, clicks onto the portal, and they are going to stop the Baron on this one, but Zeka is absolutely dead. That's a shutdown now for Krako, who picks up that gold.
Big moment there. I think Zeka still will be happy because it does mean that the Baron does not get taken. Has to give his life. Nice attempt at a flank there, but because he's able to stall for a decent amount of time, the Baron's not going to go over. Hanwha Life are able to still get the mid lane turret. And DRX try desperately there to get themselves the Baron. Not actually going to end up working out. And Rascal also TP'd for that, as did Kingen.
Uh-oh.
Turret is still up.
Never mind.
And, we'll be okay. I mean, that when Renekton walks up to anyone, I feel the uh-oh.
Especially after the last time they fought.
So what I think happens here is that they think that they can force a 4v4 because Rascal tried to back and it got cancelled, but you don't have Aftershock. You're not that tanky. You went Demonic Embrace as well, so if you're an Aftershock Maokai with Radiant Virtue, I think you can do that and maybe get away with it. Not the case here. And then Zeka ends up dying, but I think definitely for a good cause. The shutdown is nice though for Croco. Should get him to his second item. And maybe, I mean, if Grizzly already did have his Radiant Virtue, then that's not...
I don't think he did.
Does now. So maybe it'll work on the next try.
Yeah, and there will be a next time very soon because this Hextech break about to spawn, and you just know that Humalife, they want to get on Soul Point, they want to have this buffer as the flash comes in, forces it from Paddock. Nice play from Life once again, who has been having a strong game so far.
Really has. As King and Interact and
pressing our buttons now. Here comes King in. He is going to go into his stopwatch. He's very far ahead of the team as now Nature's Grasp does come out and a couple of zoning ultimates, question mark?
Ooh, that means that DRX can get for the Drake. I love this response from Humalife. Immediately, we can't go for the team fight. Don't want to give DRX the Dragon. Try and set up. I don't think they actually should commit to the Baron, because if you get caught in a 5v5, their lead is not that big. If somehow DRX gain backline access, you might still be in trouble. But DRX don't have vision, so they feel prized into this. I think now they're also realizing, hey, doesn't look like Humalife actually wants to commit for this Nash here. And they should be able to get themselves the Dragon here, would equalize the score. But Humalife, again, do find some extra gold in the form of a turret.
Yeah, definitely a good look. Crocker going to start this one up. He's kind of putting a timer here onto Humalife Esports, but they spot Zeka hitting the objective, the Baron. So Crocker immediately, with this paranoia, will be in position. Barrel's going all the way over as they look to potentially turn onto him. Now he is quite far ahead as the teams are struggling with their usage of the Hextech gates today. Barrel going to flash on in once again onto the Sivir and be denied as now the depth charge comes in onto Rascal, who is in a lot of trouble, has the stopwatch, and that's a big off on him. They have the angle onto Viper, but Viper will kite it out and he will survive, and that should be that. Paddock has to go 1v4. Can he do it? Not in the face of this giant Renekton, as Kingen will take him out, and that should be the Baron here to Humalife Esports.
And the Hail Mary from DRX not gonna be enough. Viper showcasing why he is one of the best AD carries in the region, able to stay alive. Great use of summoners there as well. As Humalife punish Barrel. That's the second silly Hextech gate that I've seen. The previous one by Kingen, he ended up living, but you know, not in a great place. And then here, if you do this while Croco ults, like, you get away with it, but because Life is there and actually gets on top of him immediately, they're able to take down Barrel. Then Barrel flashes, gets the spell shoot out of Viper, but that's not really enough. And Rascal also uses Equalizer. Like, if they have Equalizer here, then maybe they can turn, and even with Fate actually doing a ton of work, you see as well, credit to Grizzly immediately swapping over to peeling for Viper there, keeps his AD carry alive. And with the kite back and the team fighting power, Humalife get themselves the Nash.
Yeah. See, very happy Humalife Esports fans, and they should be, even with feeling the effect of the Fate engage.
It was a bit scary there.
Point. Yes, very scary stuff. Humalife Esports with their Baron buffs. Still a bit scared themselves to actually push on in here. It seems like they have sniffed out that DRX are going to go in. Speaking of which, Barrel going to press his buttons. The equalizer's good. The Nocturne gets in, but a stopwatch is there. They take out Life, though, and the damage is enough. But this Renekton once again, Kingen just layering, and Zeka is unaffected the entire time. Just shelling damage from the mid lane. Picks up a triple kill. And they get Viper, but they don't take out Zeka or Kingen, who will now push the mid lane.
And even with Viper, doesn't have sums, ends up going down. This is the problem with the Humalife comp. This is a triple threat comp. It's not enough to just take out Viper. You need to deal with the other members as well. And Zeka might have gone crowned, but he has Nashers. So at this point, he's not going to be too worried. Not sure about that one, but
well,
shouldn't end up mattering too much.
Just going to take the Hextech gate out. This time actually makes sense. And yeah, it's mid inhibitor. It's pretty good. It's not the end of the world, but just furthering their lead essentially.
Viper's like, I've had enough of this. I'm buying GA third. Understandably, given how these games have played out. And DRX, they keep going for these aggressive plays. This time around actually ends up working out. because of a great equalizer, and Viper tethered there in a second for the fear, but they're also going up into a choke point against Azir, who is, as you mentioned, just autoing throughout the entirety of that fight.
Just standing there.
And an angry crocodile. So it doesn't end up working out quite well. And Home Alive, it's textbook comp, it's textbook gameplay. It's looking good so far in game number 1.
Yeah. GA is complete, and you can't really dive on the Viper and hope to win the team fight from here on out, because the amount of time of the res is enough for the other threats on Humble Life Esports now to take you out, and for Viper to respawn, of course. So Rascal trying his best, trying to push that side lane with the teleport. And the lead is shortened to about 6,000, but even the double Hextech Drake is going to feel nice here for the side of Humble Life Esports, who they don't even have an objective at this point to go for, so they're just going to push the top lane.
Yeah, and it really is going to have to require some major mistakes from Humble Life to lose at this point, because your disengaged composition has a ton of defensive items, right? Crown is there, double GA. You have Sums, Viper's Flash is about to come off cooldown as well. First inhib is down, you're sitting on Soul Point. Opposing team has one Drake. And their composition has kind of run its course. If you snowball the mid game, I really like the DRX comp. I think that the pressure in side lane that Nocturne provides can definitely be something that's really hard to deal with. But from here on out, unless everyone on Hanwha like funnels into a 5-man Paddock Fate wombo combo with an equalizer on top, it's not looking too hot.
And then they have to kill Viper a second time. And a death cap picked up here for Zeka, who's just piling up the cash. Even is going to be going into probably a Shadow Flame, but we'll have to wait and see what he does make out of that alternator. Just a lot of gold stacked up here onto the Azir. And Humble Life Esports just waiting for this soul, potentially. If you get a Hextech Soul with this, that is the nail in the coffin. It's very difficult to lose with that one. And just be making a run at it. We do have the Baron spawning about, 16 seconds afterwards, so do have to worry about that, but no doubt Humble Life Esports with their DPS can just force the Hextech fight.
Yeah, they really can. And DRX, as mentioned, I think that the previous fight that they weren't able to win was kind of their last chance. Now the gold lead is nigh unsurmountable, and it also creates a really, really obvious issue. A great comeback mechanic with Nocturne specifically is trying to catch people in side lane. I want you to look at Humble Life. Between Zeka and Kingen, who do you think is easier to kill? Because I think both of them just 1v2 Barrel.
As Barrel is going to get caught here, we do have the Sivir ultimate used, and Barrel just trying to run away, as meanwhile they can't get past Renekton, as Kingen is going to zone them, but he's taking so much free damage, has a GA. Pop Blossom alone does pretty much nothing, as Kingen buys the time here on the backside. Might have to pay for it with his life, as Paddock at least will take that, and the damage of the Rumble is actually pretty huge. And now Grizzly making his way back in. We do get the GA as Paddock is trying his damnedest, but it will not be quite enough as Rascal goes for a little dance there at the end. But it should be Hextech Soul or maybe just the game here for Humble Life Esports.
And if Paddock, got surprised by the Asu, nails that flash, then maybe he kills that's it. He kills Viper, and then the team unfortunately still would not be able to get it done. Humble Life, it's nothing flashy, but it's good gameplay here early on. They weather some of the pressure that DRX tries to put up, and take a pretty decisive game number 1.
Try to take out Zeka here right at the end, but Humble Life Esports will take the extra kills and move on with their lives. Game number 1, very handily taken by Humble Life Esports, as Life had a huge game, as they are doing chants here at the end of the game as well. But yeah, very dominant stuff, very straightforward stuff. It's kind of what we expected from the side of Humble Life Esports. We'll see if they can keep it up for the rest of the best of 5.
Also cool to see that DRX actually did go for what we expected, try and go get creative in draft. The Nico still available for them, and it ends up not working out. The execution, I think, in the mid-game fights in particular, not really working out here for DRX. Don't mind the draft so much, but you do need to make sure that, I think most notably, Beryl, Fate, and Croco need to be on exactly the same page. And in this game, never really got to see that.
Yeah. You know, we were giving Beryl a lot of credit early on. Some of the plays he was making around the map was great. He was doing Lahens-esque stuff, and a lot of the success in the early games for KT does come from that. But then afterwards, as you mentioned, the team fighting coordination was just not there. And
not good enough.
Either it's Beryl calling it too early or the team not following up or whatever it is, it just was not enough to get past HLE Esports this time around. So we'll have to wait and see what game number 2 is going to look like. HLE Esports playing it very cautiously, I would say, but it was a cautious victory at the end of the day. So guys, we are done here for game number 1. We'll take a break and have the space break it down, and we'll see you after that.
불 끄고 올 거나 그냥
목소리 레오나 맞아 맞아
나좀 말아.
괜찮아 이거
텔마스 천천히
레오나 와 Q2초 태지 왔다 위에 천천히
아이랑
나 빠져서 볼게 노선 죽었어
니코고 이거 내쪽 받을 수 있어. 나 넘어갈게.
나 정면 가줄게
나 일단 가긴 했어. 나 자야 크게 쪼일게 이거.
나 많이 깎을게
천천히 해봐.
맞아 좀 너물 딸피가 가인이거든 봐줘
봐줘 내가.
나올 때 내가
이쪽 빠져야 돼. 이쪽 빠져야 돼.
봐줘 자 이거 나이스
나이스.
너물 잡았지 미드로 갈 수 있냐 텔
끝나면 한대 미드.
미드 텔 찍어볼래 성훈아
나
팬 여러분의 환호 함성과 함께 시작하겠습니다.
대전 마이시티.
최후의 승자죠. 빅게임의 악마 모드 온.
아 제발 나이스.
꺾이지 않는 DRX.
Hey, welcome to the space for the first best of 5 series of our summer playoffs and wonderful graphics. I missed you all. Thank you to my wonderful team for this one. I missed you guys. I'm really happy that I'm back.
We're really happy to have you back here too. It just wasn't the same without you in those last few weeks.
Aw.
Yeah, welcome back. I appreciate that you flew the plane yourself to make it back.
I'm that good actually.
Heavy commitment,
plays
and
an
you know, I
episode.
respect it.
You changed names, it seems.
Yeah, I'm William now.
It is now. Okay.
Not every day, but some days I'm
Some
William.
days. So today you will be William. So William, please break down the first game for me, the expectations you had coming into this series. We thought that it would be a one-sided one. DRX Miracle Run 5%. As we said, I think it's dropping right now because I don't see how they would come.
Yeah, I mean, being honest, a lot of people expect this to be one-sided and go into Autonomous Life Esports, but it feels like DRX kind of regressed in this game and aren't even playing as well as they did, at least in the last week of the season. With the draft coming out, I feel like one thing when we see these Nocturne comps is often there's a ton of mobility. Things like Nocturne Ari being super popular because when the Nocturne flies in, you get the follow-up, and that isn't here, which makes it more difficult to execute. And I think the main thing was we just saw them really not on the same page when it comes to setting up the dives that this composition wants to achieve.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I look at this draft here for DRX, and there's not a lot of great setup for the Rumble here, and you're trying to both dive with the Nico and the Nocturne, but you don't have the setup for this Rumble that's super fragile, so the re-engages become really easy from Hanwha Life. And obviously Zeka, I don't think it was his greatest game of Azir of all time, but I think he has a lot of agency, the Maokai has a lot of agency, and when you're playing at a Spell Shield Sivir, as we saw multiple times, you're going to have a really hard time getting on top of Viper.
I mean, that's the thing. It's way easier to execute on the side of Hanwha Life here, so which makes me question, is this the approach you want to take when you're DRX here, knowing that you're the underdog? Would you have gone a different way here, draft-wise?
I think just simplify it. I think a lot of the time I've talked about the season, there's like these really brainless engage compositions where less coordination is needed. But as much as this is like a heavy dive comp, I feel like so much coordination is needed between different elements to try and factor the fact that Nocturne's flying in super fast, but Nico has to try and find an angle, and there's just too many things going on, especially for like you're going against a stronger team, game one of the series. I think they really should have just kept it a lot simpler.
And I think you perfectly summed it up, and we're gonna play the first highlight here, which was the Herald at 16 minutes, because for me it illustrates perfectly the difficulties of this comp. You see Kingen diving onto the back line, but then miscommunication I feel on the side
Bait
of
is
DRX
just,
here.
he's completely zoned out here of this fight, so Pata gets caught, he can't offer any damage either. It's early game, right? So the Xayah, even though she has the Featherstorm here, is just kind of doing nothing, and then as the turn comes through here onto the side of DRX, it's really difficult to actually do anything on the left side of the fight. Equalizer's already down. Pata lost all of his health bar during his ultimate there, and it's just a really easy way to divide and conquer here if you're the side of Hanwha Life, when you know that Pop Blossom is the major form of damage and engage in a fight like this at the early stages of the game.
Yeah, I feel like you really need to like punch in when the side of Hanwha Life Esports with a comp like that has control of the objective, and they were so hesitant. You know, like we had Rascal flashing away for the Maokai ult, which again, like I can understand the thought behind it, but it just meant that like all of the CCs focused on the Renekton, the Xayah's not doing anything, the Rumble's not doing anything, and it just flounders.
And I want to play the second highlight here because it feels like the game was a wrap after 15 minutes, honestly. You know that on the side of Hanwha Life, you have the late game agency and strength in teamfights. How can you come back after messing up fights like this?
I mean, it's really tough because, I mean, with a composition like this, you kind of just have to hard force every time. And after this pick onto Rascal that unfortunately Beryl kind of set up for Hanwha Life, they're just not able to take this next Wraith fight, which is really critical. But they keep trying to hard force, and Beryl multiple times tries to get on top of Viper, who has Spell Shield, Flash, and Cleanse, and failed. But I don't think it's the wrong approach necessarily here for DRX to constantly try to dive and try to set up plays, because you're not going to outscale. You're not going to. It's not just going to get easier automatically. You have to find these picks. But the Sivir was a huge problem because it's one of the hardest AD carries to dive in a comp like this too.
I think what was telling is we saw like Beryl died, and then a couple of seconds passed, and then the Nocturne went in, and that wasn't the only fight where that happened. It was so disjointed. I think one of the things that have looked better for DRX in recent weeks was like Croco and Beryl working together, particularly in the last week when Croco was on really good form, and it just wasn't present there. Like Beryl goes in, dies, then Croco goes in, dies. You know, Parduk is looking off to the side, not much happens, and it was telling as well at the start of that fight that even though they have like more of a peel back comp, it was Honor Life Esports who were initiating the first part of that fight and getting the pick.
Yeah, and stayed in the driver's seat here. I mean, again, easier to execute comp on their side. Who should get player of the game for this? We chose Life,
Yep.
I believe. Let's reveal then and see if the rest of the board agrees here. And it is Life indeed. Some Lehen's cosplay on the Nautilus engages here.
I'm happy to see it. 100% kill participation at 14. I was thinking that Renekton gets it for sure. Like, Kingen had a great game, and he had a lot of great moments in the late game. But the early game was run by Life, absolutely. This roam to the top side was huge. This one as well. He constantly was there to punish Beryl when he came in. And yeah, the Renekton had a fantastic game. I think we'll definitely get some votes. But Life's Nautilus, very clean.
Yeah, and I think in games like this, like, we obviously saw the solo lanes really step up in the later team fights, but I feel like this game was done by that point. And moments like this, catching Beryl on the flank really just made him look more out of position than he already was. And yeah, Life, fantastic impact early, really set up the game to have that positive impact, and solid performance, yeah.
Yeah, wonderful gun on this side. I think there could have been other choices here. We'll see.
I think we'll probably be quite split.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think top and bottom both deserve good shouts. I think
I mean,
really
was a
good
good
game for
bait.
Viper. Yeah.
Yeah.
He blocked a lot of the engages. Let's see. Okay, actually a lot of votes for
lane.
Zeka,
Yeah.
interestingly.
Yeah, not his best game, but again, I mean, he didn't really have time to shine. I guess the game was done pretty quickly. Not the best shuffles though. He took risks with them, but
They were all right,
it is
yeah.
how it is. It worked in the end. How do you want to approach the next one though, on this side of DRX to keep the hopes of coming back alive?
For me, like, ban Maokai, like, or pick it. Well, go if you're going blue side, prioritize that Maokai. Like, that's for me #1. Step 1, and play an easier comp.
Yeah, I agree with the easier comp. Cohesion's really big. Make sure that whatever Beryl and Croco are playing, they can pair up and just make it smooth.
All right, we'll see if blue side is better for them then in the draft approach, but back to casters for game 2.
Thank you, Space, for that wonderful breakdown. Welcome back, Laura, of course. And now, moving into game number 2, after Life does pick up the POG, what will we see change? I would expect DRX move over to the blue side, but let's see what they have in store for us in terms of drafts after what we saw in that first game.
I do think that game number 1 kind of showcases what the one opening could be for DRX, and it's the early game. Homo Life are by no means a team that, like KT, like Gen G with certain competitions, starts dominating in you in lane and then kind of runs you over from the get-go. They just don't really play that style. Often their picks don't really lend themselves towards that, and I think one of the few points where we have seen weaknesses for example, even in this first game for Life and for Viper is specifically in the lane. The draft, though, didn't necessarily facilitate that, and we'll see if they are able to get a better suited one. Because if Homo Life pick up another one and DRX try to go for something creative, it doesn't end up working out again. I don't know if this best of 5 is gonna go the distance.
Yeah, I think based on what we've already seen in the first game, Homo Life Esports certainly have their number, but game 2 is going to tell us a lot for sure, as Azir is going to be banned away right away in the second slot. So they say, well, we don't want to let Zeka get that again.
And Tristana still not going to be seen in this game. I would not mind the Maokai priority to be high. I kind of echo the desk on that one. I think the champion just has an incredible amount of versatility. Makes it really hard as well to try and play proactive team comps. And I think the only way you can win this series, if you're DRX, is by blowing up the early game. Trying to team fight against Hanwha, I just don't think it's going to work. I think that they're way too good at it compared to DRX, right? You have a front line of Kingen and Viper, or Kingen and Zeka and Life, who can all enable a world champion AD carry that is pretty good when he gets to space. And then on the other end, a duck. And I do like Parduk, but I think in moments like this, you do see some of the inexperience of the player, right? The final fight comes to mind. And DRX don't do well in the early game. I think Life is going to be very, very difficult for them. Now, we have actually seen DRX in Challengers have some great tailored anti-Xayah drafts. Xayah is a champion that can struggle when she is severely outranged. We'll see if DRX are going to go for something similar here.
Yeah, any Xerath enjoyers could see it in this one, as Maokai is going to be selected. That Jax priority for Rascal coming in for DRX, but it does give over the Maokai, as now they're going to index even further into the dive, into the Xayah Maokai, as Nocturne and Ahri are picked up, which has been a strong duo, but already Humble Life Esports hold two of the pieces that are really good into this style of play.
Yeah, and there are ways where you can overload and you can try to make the Xayah's game unplayable, right? You only have one ultimate. But there's a Maokai already as well. We saw in the last game, Grizzly was very comfortable. I actually kind of like the Aatrox. I think Aatrox into short range compositions takes away a lot of his natural weaknesses. Also, obviously, Kingen, even though his first couple of games didn't look that good on, we know what his peak with the Aatrox can be. And yeah, for DRX, not being filled with confidence here in the early stages of the draft. We'll see how they're able to round it out. But if you end up with, like, I don't know, a Varus Nautilus, something similar, I think you're going to be super excited here.
Yeah, and you can just feel it. That's probably, I mean, we'll see. I mean, we could even see Smearl show its face here. I have to say it that way because I'm casting with Chronicler. Yeah. The Ziggs even going to show some respect to that. Another pick that has been used to fight up against the Xayah, at least in the lane.
It's fine. It's going to be Jhin Xerath. They're going to pull it out. They're not. They're not. I like the Ziggs band, though. I think the respect being paid towards DRX is definitely a good call. Given that they have, as an organization, really been a big fan of the Ziggs in recent times as well. The Rel is still available. Life's like, I get a top tier engage. Ooh, that would be nice. Can also just go for the Yone, but I think securing the Rel was too important because it also denies a lot of combos. As, ooh, I would like this. I do think that the Sivir, outside of pressing R, doesn't really fit with the rest of the composition. Sparrow goes back to comfort once again. Alistair, not banned, and you're playing into Rel, so it does make a ton of sense here.
Yeah, it does feel like, though, first blue side draft from DRX falls a little bit flat. And Zeka just going to pull out his Yone here for this game. Just going to rely on the Maokai for any amount of AP damage on the team. As we have seen some teams do before, it's not like a lot of members on DRX are going to be building many defensive items anyway, so indexing heavily into AD damage is... AD damage? What? AD is very strong in today's world of LCK, or just League of Legends in general. Either way, it's going to be interesting to see if DRX can actually pull it off this time.
And I'm not necessarily filled with confidence. As mentioned, I think that the composition has a worse matchup than last time around. There, at least I felt like there were some mid-game and early-game opportunities. If Rascal maybe gets like Giga Fed here, they did B1 Jax, and that is something that really has to pay off. If you B1 this pick and you don't get a huge lead over the Aatrox, that is a lot weaker in the early game. Of course, the buffs that he got on this patch mostly related to either his clear, as in his minions that he's able to wave clear later on, and his scaling. And Jax early can definitely punish some matchups, but I think it's kind of a necessity. Humble Life have, again, drafted a composition that I think can just do it all when you get to mid to late. And for DRX, we'll see. But if they don't get off to a better start than last time around, I think this game is going to feel very similar to the last one.
Yeah, I think a ton of work is going to have to be done by mid-jungle on that side. You need to make that Ahri Nocturne really make them hurt on the side of Humble Life Esports. Otherwise, you might be in a bit of trouble. Here we go, guys. We're hopping on the rip for game number 2. All right, here we go. Game number 2 on the way. And as we mentioned, this is always really important for the team that lost to tie it up, obviously, in Game 2. But certainly we weren't really too happy with what we saw from DRX in Game 1. And so it just carries that much more weight moving into the second game, that if they don't really show something a lot better, then might just go all the way of Hanwha Life Esports.
And wouldn't surprise me. I think Hanwha Life, particularly against these weaker teams, have just been such a stable team. I also think they miss some of the explosiveness of KT, and Gen.G is basically very similar to them, but just one step even further above. I think mainly due to Peanut. I think that was also the biggest difference that we saw in that matchup, right? Like the mid jungle of Peanut Chovy is just really, really hard to play into, even for our most experienced teams, let alone for Grizzly. And Zeka, of course, has been somewhat inconsistent. But if you don't like pass the bar test, Hanwha Life is just a menace to take down because they're just
the bar exam.
Yeah, you have to pass. Well, it's more like, you know, the ride. And you have to be this tall to pass. As Rascal doing what Kingen did to him early here. And should probably fine though. He's going to wait it out. Should still be in experience rate. Might have to give up some creeps, but not going to be too bothered about that.
He does have dash, but yeah, it's fine.
Yeah,
hitting minions, you dodge the counter-strike, which is the most important thing for Jax level 1.
Yeah, you're not contesting anyway. The wave is not yours to play with. It's all Rascal. But yeah, no, it's you have to be this tall to go in this ride, and any team that isn't KT Gen.G, not tall enough. Which makes sense, because have you seen Hanwha? You're not getting on that ride.
Yeah, definitely not. It's going to be in range this time around as we're getting a deep dive into the top lane. And exactly everything that goes on between those two. As Fate, he has been very strong in recent times, but still looking for this as Poddock's going to miss the cannon.
Fate hits that charm. If the cannon doesn't keep Zeka safe, could have been some real bad news. Not going to be the case, though.
Or some real good news for Fate.
True.
And
like your
chances.
optimism.
Yeah. I mean, I do think it will come down to, you know, level 6, some Spirit, Rush, and Paranoia. Opportunistic tries at going for some of the isolated members of Hanwha Life Esports and getting ahead might just be the way that they get ahead and move into the mid game.
I also greatly appreciate that Kingen actually plays his own skin. It always makes me sad when people don't.
Yeah. It's gonna hit that Q3. Rascal gonna feel it. Still looking for the value out of the first pick Jax, although it may take a while. Crocker gonna put down a ward. Not sure exactly where he's going.
Might try to go for the camp here, because Zeka has to base. They will not spot Grizzly, but he does see that the camp has not been taken yet. And I don't know about Grizzly being able to contest this, although Fate should be coming over.
Force this one. The smite is not good. Croco in a lot of trouble here, and Fate makes his way over, but maybe able to charm down Grizzly? No, it's just the first blood given over to Zeka with red buff now, as he is flashing in with Q3. He's looking for the kill on the Fate. Will force the flash out of him as well.
And I thought that Croco was aware of where Grizzly was, but I guess not. I thought I know that he wasn't spotted, but I think that as
there is Rascal in a lot of trouble. Doesn't go for the flash himself and forces the one out of Rascal. And already, Kingen is getting ahead of this matchup.
And Croco and Fate looking really disjointed there, because I think that the moment, if Fate roams the moment that Grizzly shows up, like maybe you can get something done in the 2v2, but doesn't actually end up happening. And now you give a kill to Zeka of all people. Yeah, that's really it's really rough. Makes the matchup that was not going too poorly for Fate nigh unplayable. The extra sustain plus the extra burn damage is going to be such a big problem. And Croco now also going to be struggling even more, and hitting 6 is so incredibly important on the Nocturne. Will actually still have an experience lead. I think he was able to get most of the, even though he didn't actually get it with the smite, most of the Raptor camp, but obviously not going to call Worth on this one. And yeah, we do see, unless like Unless they made the call that Zeka wouldn't try to go in, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I don't think you should be looking for the 2v2 regardless of whether or not Fate roams early there. But this disconnect between Kroko and his laners, something that you can't really afford against Hanwha.
Yeah. Can't do that at level 4. And can't do it in that situation. It's just not a good look, to be quite honest. So let's see how it goes from here. Zeka, he's playing his Yone, gets the free kill, and will be moving into the mid game very happy. The bottom lane having a lot less action, especially because it's Alistar versus Rel, kind of neutralizing matchup in that sense. Not necessarily Beryl on Leona looking for every opportunity that he can get, like it was in game 1.
And with the flash down on Rascal, King has also been able to actually gain control of this lane. Again, this was a B1 pick here, and he's kind of getting clapped, right? He's falling behind early. He had to flash defensively. Kingan keeps the wave in a really awkward spot here as well, so he's actually susceptible to ganks.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's not like Kingan is even remotely gankable here. Early Drake gonna go the way. This will get spotted, but not gonna be too much of a bother here. As the early Drake, again, we have the same 2 dragons here in the same order.
What does it mean?
What does it mean?
Well, Rascal might die, as he does not have a leap strike. He is going to walk out of the route. And we did have the Yone Zeka moving his way. Oh, Kroko, didn't you learn the first time? Don't try to steal the enemy Raptors. It's not safe. Turns out it was safe this time.
Yeah,
Grizzly was on the Drake.
They do know, right? Because they had the vision. They know Grizzly's on bot side. Still not going to get it. Will be hit level 6 now, but with the lanes already in a kind of a subpar state outside the bot where it is really hard to actually find the play, things not looking too hot here for DRX in the early game. We'll see if they can find a way to get it back. As we do see the TP, or the back rather from Rascal does come through, but going to give King an even more of a lead. Again, this Jax was B1.
This is not a cannon wave. He doesn't have teleport.
Yeah.
He is down 20 CS. It's Kane just going to pick up plated seal caps, run back to lane. He's going to have ample time, especially with tier 2 boots. As Kroko trying to make a run at this Rift Herald. We'll see how this one does go. Life going to spot it very early on, make his presence known as well. As Beryl moves over the ward here, but Life...
Viper is ahead of Paddock here.
Yeah, I mean, they're collapsing. Life Esports getting ready. Okay, he's going to knock him over the wall. As here we go, the Nature's Grasp already moving in. Grizzly getting in position as the Paranoia. Can they take this one away? Grizzly will go down, but the wombo combo is huge in the pit. As they will finally take out Rascal. It does take them quite a while, but it's already 2 kills here. And it will be 3 as they can feed this one to Viper as well. And it is disaster for DRX as Hanwha Esports say thank you for the free Rombo combo. And they set it up beautifully.
And DRX were a member down. Paddock isn't that strong, but if he's there, can heal, can use his ultimate, maybe they can get something going. But instead, DRX throw everything into a fight. And now, I'd argue the 2 worst members to be fed on Hanwha Life are. I mean, Zeka already kind of was. 20 CS up, get a kill. But now Kingan, who was already stomping the lane, and yes, it was with a counter pick, but DRX B1 this is going to be up a plate. 30 CS, you know, maybe 25 by the time that Rascal clears up the wave, and 2 kills. So it's bad. It's really, really rough. And again, DRX kind of committing to this. When you don't actually have your Sivir not allowed, it starts with the Magnet Storm, and then the combo of the Yone ultimate plus Aatrox. I would say wait for Paddock, but I don't think it would have changed that much looking at it again.
Yeah, no, don't think so.
It did get Herald.
Yeah,
so
did.
now
it went over to Rascal.
Look,
actually.
now he's only 500 gold behind.
Yeah. Didn't quite get that second turret plate as well on the crash. So 1,000 gold in mid, 500 to both top and 80 carry. In the lead here for Hanwha Esports, nearly 2,000 gold in total. And, I mean, this is not getting any prettier. As we do see, he does have his plated steel cap, so at least he's not getting Omega bullied in the top lane, but still not a good feel for Rascal.
Yeah, I'm already left looking for angles. 11 minutes into a game, as in we go.
Right, it's Nocturne, but guess what? Grizzly's here, as do they have the damage to even get through the World Ender? Doesn't look like they can, as the immediate follow-up comes from the Nature's Grasp. We do have double teleport as Zeka will take one. He will take the second with the help of Grizzly, as he will go down to Fate, who also TP'd in, but again, it's still a win here to the side of Hanwha Life Esports.
Still going to be very favorable here. As you mentioned, double flash used as well here on either side. But DRX really needed to play the work out. Croco not having the best of time on the Nocturne, and that combined with Rascal, who was already really struggling in his lane. And as, King might be dead here. Big shutdown.
Yeah, looks like he should be, as the charm does come in. Counter-Strike as well, and they give that gold over to Rascal, who will look to come back in the lane with that shutdown.
Really need that. If you don't get that kill, I think the game might just snowball from there and you lose complete control. As again, we take a look here. Rascal has a Shi. That's kind of the damage that you're working with. Even with Croco having a Stride Breaker, the sustain is more than enough. Grizzly has a great timing, and then Zeka and Fate both commit the teleport, which means in the end we do get Croco dying, we get Zeka going down to the turret, and Rascal going down as well. But then this kind of salvages it, right? This means that it's a 2-for-2 trade, but due to the shutdown, DRX are not going to feel too bad about it. While that's happening though in the picture-in-picture, they just got another dragon, and it is Ocean this time around. So DRX getting away pretty lucky with that one.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it does feel like Fate's trying to put out fires everywhere. Remember, like, level 4, he's trying to help out his jungler. Top side play, he's trying to get over there, and he gets the charm down onto Zeka, picks up the shutdown himself, calls in the teleport maybe even to get the kill onto Kingen. And he even gives it over to Rascal. I kind of feel for Fate in this one because he's been playing pretty well, but the team is just not really there. And we mentioned it when we were leading up in the narrative for this matchup, that generally 3rd versus 6th is quite one-sided, but especially this season with the fight for 6th place and DRX only getting 6 wins in the regular season series, it might even be more one-sided in this case, as now Zeka looking to get a play going up on the top side of the map here, as it looks like maybe DRX were trying to set up for something onto Kingen, but they decide against it, and Hanwha Life Esports respond in kind.
Not going to be the case. Life did try and speed up there, but not actually gonna go in. And feels very reminiscent of game number 1, where technically DRX still have an angle in this one, right? They're not out of it. They're behind, but it's not the end of the world, as the minion again doing Zeka a huge favor there. Having not too bad a trade as in they go.
Trying to go in onto Grizzly, only has the Demonic Embrace. They've got Kingen, though, on the top side, who immediately is there. The Magnet Storm comes in, and Beryl, yes, he is going to get another knockup, but immediately dies. Rascal is in there alone versus 4, as Fate is trying desperately to help out, but he's just getting into a rough spot himself, as Rascal will eventually go down. They do take down Grizzly, but again, these fights are looking very desperate.
Grizzly there able to dodge out on the Counter-Strike, still ends up going down. But it requires everything from DRX. The trade's still not favorable for them, and it's the disjointedness that we keep seeing, where Beryl and Croco are on page 1, and then Rascal is on page 15. Paddock isn't even reading the book, and Fate's trying like, okay, I need you here, I need you here, please, can we all be on the same page? And it just isn't happening. As Viper, clean timing there. I don't know if that's going to be enough to save him, though.
Yeah, Paddock's got a great angle here where the feathers aren't really... He's got some more feathers down, though. The root comes down, and the feathers from the Feather Storm weren't enough, but he gets enough autos in, and now Beryl's in a rough spot, has to flash away. As Croco, now he says, okay, I will read the book, as there is the stun, and a kill is fed over to King, and once again, Croco also has to flash. This game is a mess.
And Hanwha Life, while that is happening, just in the river, taking Herald, unbothered by all of this. Viper doesn't even need to flash. Just held onto his flash for that whole play, as this is where the root of the issue arises. Fate was backing.
Yeah. He was like below half.
He was backing
when this started.
And I think DRX are just trying, my very charitable read is that they're trying to force fights when members of Hanwha are out of position, but Hanwha read them like a book. They're just ready every single time. There's always a member ready to rotate. There's always a teleport available. They're never where they're not supposed to be. And Viper, another example, as he goes in on Paddock, is aware, by the way, that Beryl is there. Immediately is able to get the Feather Storm off. Perfect timing there on the cleanse as the stun comes in. And then Life's there. We have the rotation come over as well here from the Aatrox. And yeah, Viper with his tempo fully stacked is just having a great time. Not too bothered by anything that's going on. And then Croco is forced to flash as well, taking away a lot of his offensive power, particularly because Viper didn't need to use his.
Yep, as now we got another fight on the top side, another 2v2 skirmish. This time Grizzly not in a great spot. The fear goes in onto Zeka as he will make his presence known once again. Another Spirit Rush available for Fate, but he uses it just to back away. As Rift Herald's still being held here by Grizzly.
It's Fed Yone. It's so hard to make plays once this champion gets a lead. Also, top lane is still kind of happening. I guess Rascal has, you know, he's 3 kills, so in kills he's even. Not looking that great in terms of CS or plates, but is a Jax that is in this game, just not in the same game as the rest of his team. Which I don't even want to like single out a specific player for this. It just very clearly feels like there are a lot of different voices on DRX.
Yeah.
And they're not saying the same thing.
Yeah, Rascal's using the book as a monitor stand, actually. You know, he has the book, but he's not reading it, and he's using it for a totally different purpose.
You need to get the right viewing angle, okay? It's bad for posture. It's bad for your neck and your shoulders. You need to make sure. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, going in onto Xayah, trying to force something, I suppose. Trying to give him the benefit of the doubt at this point.
Coordination?
Is coming in. Maybe? Paranoia? Croco's like, never mind. Okay, now they're going to go in a massive Counter-Strike out of that backline. Didn't even see the Jax coming in as they catch Hanwha Life Esports totally off guard. And finally, we have a good fight here from the side of DRX. Charm lands, and Fate says, I will not go quietly in this game. You will read my book. And he is 3-0-5, and DRX get the streak.
They finally coordinated for what feels like the first time in this series. DRX, all the buttons pressed at the same time, will be able to get themselves a dragon, and it means that the gold lead now equalized. And crucial here is that we have towards the top side Croco, Paddock, Beryl, and then they don't actually spot the Jax. The Paranoia really big here, and the Counter-Strike there ends up being absolutely huge. Viper isn't able to actually utilize his ultimate until he's already way too low. And if you can get an early reset, obviously Fate is going to have a field day in these fights. A crucial fight here for DRX in the second game.
Yeah, I mean, it gives them a fighting chance after whatever we were seeing in the early game, as immediately this game is turned on its head. A huge team fight that goes the way of DRX, and now, I mean, if you do have your Ahri or Nocturne in a good spot, if your Jax is somewhat in the game, if the Sivir's farming it out, you've got a fighting chance. They take the gold lead, and now maybe, you know, we were talking about DRX being lucky that it was an Ocean Soul, but perhaps now not feeling as lucky as they were able to pick up the singular Ocean.
So, Rascal can go like Zhonya's Frozen Heart. If you get double, like, full armor-eyed and Jax with, if he goes like Frozen Heart, Death Stance, and Zhonya's, with Ocean Soul, eventually he's going to be unkillable. Now, I don't think we should get ahead of ourselves. I still think the composition from Hanwha Life has a great amount of power, and that type of wombo combo that we just saw, Hanwha Life have that as well. So it's going to boil down, I think, to who actually executes that better. And whoever does that, whoever finds more people, will be able to win. I do think that the Nocturne, when used well, should be able to give you an edge in these type of situations where you're relying on the flank, where you're relying on Ahri getting in the backline, or Rascal like in that fight. Paranoia just makes it really hard to play out for the opposing team.
Yeah, we're talking about Zhonya's. We're getting that second item here for Fade. He has 10 stacks on a Dark Seal, too. Hasn't died in this game. They do not know that a bunch of members of HLE are in this brush, as they're trying to collapse onto Zeka, and they might be able to burst him down, but no, he gets the ult off, and the turn on the Kroko is really fantastic as the gank brush comes through for HLE Esports, and they get this pick onto the enemy jungler.
Really well done there by Humble. Love this trap. With Nocturne, you're always going to try and look to collapse onto side lanes that are too far up, and Humble Life, I don't want to keep going with the book allegories, but you know, they knew. They knew
turned
where
the page.
They did. They knew where DRX were going, and that is a big shutdown going over. Humble Life aren't actually able to turn this into more because the rest of the members are still alive. There is still a lot of vision control here for DRX, so they will be able to at least not give up anything else, but just a shutdown. Still going to feel good here, and basically equalizing the goal. And yeah, I love this trap. It's really well done. If it's just Grizzly, then maybe DRX can still trade the kill, but not going to be the case. Double ultimate invested very happily there by Hanwha. And they will be able to keep their Yone safe.
Yeah, they do exactly that. Rascal getting teleported on. There's also life up in the top side. Zeka, no ultimate available just yet, but the World Ender here, if Kingen decides on it, as Elp's gonna hold it. Magnet Storm used. Triple Counter-Strike, and Rascal is gonna get flashed on here. The follow-up is there from the side of HLE Esports. Was looking a little bit slippery, but he does get taken out.
All it costs is a flash from Life. He's gonna be happy to give that one up. And now with Barrel?
Okay, trying to set something up here. The Nocturne is on the way, and he can join. Again, Barrel always like 2 steps ahead of the team at this point.
I don't know if we should be flipping this. Kroko can always get into the pit.
Well, let's see if he can this time around. The turn is not really that great as Paddock. There's the paranoia. In goes Fade. He's got vision. Kroko does not go in, and Barrel might just die. Has this ultimate ticking as now Paddock trying to block with this shield, and it won't be quite enough as he just gets engaged upon anyway, and Kingen gets in there. Rascal tries to join, but it's a little bit too little too late. The stopwatches, the Zhonyas are everywhere, but it doesn't quite matter as it is a decimation in favor of HLE Esports.
And DRX, they got their one shot. It wasn't enough. The team fighting from HLE Life. Just a little bit too good. Oh, I don't know about this one, Kroko.
Kroko has flash.
Okay, he left. Good. Yeah, I was. Even if he whoops into you, I don't think you're gonna get him taken down. And this is what I wanna really highlight. Is I think one of the big strengths for HLE Life is that they don't make mistakes like that, right? As we go back to this, as he did actually get Grizzly, so we were wrong. Kroko, you were right. They do actually get the kill. They're on Rascal. With the flash investors from Life, making sure that they get the crash down combo. And then the Baron is started up here, and Paddock has the flash really early due to Zeka getting the Q free up. Really nicely done, because it also means that later down the line, Paddock won't have the flash available here. Kroko doesn't actually go in, doesn't want to go for the flip. Instead, he wants to try and go for the team fight. Very funny here to see Sivert, you know, an 80 carry tank.
Yeah.
And will end up not being enough as we try and go for another fight. Why not?
Go Grizzly. This is an opportunity for DRX. They're trying to get on top of Viper. Doesn't have the Feather Storm. Has to flash out of this one as Kingen and Zeka are quite strong, but it's the numbers advantage to the side of DRX that might do it. The Counter-Strike on a Viper is good. They get him down, but again, they have not dealt with Kingen, who is just swinging that sword around and taking down DRX bit by bit, and will push them out of this one. Rascal trying to take out Zeka, hops onto the ward, but the Yone just a bit too slippery. It looks like even the ult use here by Zeka, he wants the kill, but it might just end up being Grizzlies at this point as Kingen. Nice little angle, but that's his Ari, as this game once again has delved into madness.
And DRX desperately try to force, but it's not gonna be enough. Even with Viper not having his Feather Storm available, they are not able to immediately kill Miss Kroko. Very straightforward. Grizzly does not have the synchronized back with his 80 carry, so just ends up going down. And that's, I think, what prompts as well the level of aggression that we see here. This is a 4 versus 5. They want to try and force want to try and get a big angle here, and they do actually get Rascal on top of Viper without no, and it's feeling good, but Fate isn't actually in this fight from the beginning, so this is a 4 versus 4, and Kingen just gets to get so much damage off here, is completely unchecked, because they're trying to deal with the Zaya, and yeah, once Aatrox starts getting resets, he's not stopping anytime soon. Rascal's 3 levels down. Zeka's level 16.
What is going on here? Okay. Gonna trade ults.
They're
Potential teleport. There is a turret here.
Yeah, we're getting silly.
Guys.
Bounty?
Yeah.
I don't know if what Rascal is doing is applying top tier pressure or just rage split pushing. I actually...
Yes.
Maybe it's both.
Rage split pushing can provide pressure.
Yeah. Throw it down for the bounty.
Yeah.
Why not?
Emotions don't factor into the pressure equation. So we got 2 deaths in that brush. Grizzly using the DRX Juhan Maokai skin twice now. To great effect.
And really does feel like a, we're ramping back up to Worlds. LCK playoffs is around. The solo laners, Kingen and Zeka, are looking a little bit better. Although last time around, it really did take them until Worlds before they really leveled up. As Zeka's going to go in. Does he get it?
Nope.
Close.
D9 has Infinity Edge and a shield bow, a stopwatch. He will go in on pretty much anything at this point in time. The only person who does not have a stopwatch right now is Viper. And he just sold some stuff to buy it, and then he sold it again. He should have... Oh, no, he should have held
Unbelievable.
on. He has an elixir, but actually I think the stopwatch was better. But
wow, shocking. You think stopwatch was better?
I mean, you're playing against Jack's Nocturne Ari.
I agree, Feldas. It's just funny, because you're the stopwatch guy.
I'm glad that all our pros have gotten on the same page with me. Took about 3 years, but, we got there eventually.
They also had to nerf stopwatch, like, so many times.
Yeah.
Both the rune, as well as the item itself.
Yeah. And they're still buying it. Funny how that works. DRX, will they find a way to get into this fight? Maybe now that Viper does not have stopwatch, you can look to take him out. Everybody else seems to have some form of it, although Life hasn't built anything out of his, of course.
So maybe if you can get free items on Padak and Fate, you can not lose the game right now? Maybe? Well, you're losing better.
I like your optimism.
I don't think you're contesting it. I'm always looking for an angle for whichever team is losing, Valdez. It's just not a lot of great ones in this one. Do have level 16 for Fate. Can you get Death Gap? Would be big. Stopwatch also, or Zonya's also here for Rascal. As I'm pretty sure that this is going to look at the flank position from Kingen here as well. They don't know where he is.
The damage is just huge. Not even having time, and the feathers are better than a smite. Nicely coordinated. In goes Barrel just to potentially die, as Life might as well. Gets isolated by the Ahri and the Nocturne. Barrel takes a lot longer. Kingen is very strong, but the damage here from Padak, the bouncing blades are coming through. Viper's getting jumped on, but he stays alive, as that is huge. Would have been nice to have a stopwatch, wouldn't have, as Padak is just going to get dove on and eventually does get taken out by huge burst damage on the side of Hanwha Life Esports.
And that is going to be the end of it, as Hanwha Life going to bring us to a 2-0 here. Fan chants still catching me off guard on that one. And even the final Hail Mary, not going to be enough.
Viper got taken out. Didn't matter, because Padak just disappeared. Very quickly, Barrel's trying his best to try to clear the wave, but it is not. Oh, did kind of push them away from the turret. Is Kingen just going to go to the World Ender just to make sure? But yes, the turrets will go down. Krako will try his best, as the Counter-Strike not even good enough. Down will go the Nexus. It's 2-0 to the side of Hanwha Life Esports.
And Hanwha go up to 0 here. DRX had probably their best moment in this series, that one team fight that showed us what the composition was capable of if executed well. And then that was about it. It continues to be, I think, about individual underperformance as well. I think Barrel cleaned it up a little bit in the second game, but Croco getting caught out early. Rascal hard losing the lane when he was given, right, the B1. And I think B1 is such an important pick because we've seen how much value you can get out of the individual power picks that BlueSide provides. When you start it with that and then you still get countered, the way that happened in this game is not looking too hot. Fate, though, no notes.
Yeah.
You're doing great, my guy. He's trying his best. Most damage in the game.
He read the book. He made like a 15-page essay on that thing. He's going to give a presentation later on, but nobody else is there from his team, unfortunately.
You can hire him to give lectures, okay? It's costly, but it might be worth it.
Yep.
Hanwha Life showcasing that as this team has gotten better, it is not just about Viper. And that is really good because Viper Life Esports was a very resounding truth for what, the entirety of spring. But in summer, Hanwha Life leveling up.
Yeah, absolutely. And DRX, they're going to have to really pull out all the stops for game number 2, or 3 rather, if they want to have a chance, even just a small chance, to come back in the series. But guys, 2-0 to Hanwha. We're going to take a break and have the space. We'll be back.
끝낼만하냐?
일단 하면서
해봐. 알리
우리가 견적 계속 받을게. 알리 이거 노플로공이라 그냥 죽이긴 해.
타프가 알리 견제하면서 요네가 때리면 할만할 것 같아.
잠깐만 그냥 무시야. 이거 털지 마세요.
얘 타워 치면서 아테가 스캔만 넣어.
끝났어. 그냥 때려 됐어? 끝내자. 알리 무시.
타워 치면서 알리한테 스캔만 넣어봐. 야, 마우 보내볼게. 야, 보내버리고 타워.
8초. 저 라인 보내야 돼 얘들아.
죽었다.
타워.
라인
클리어. 좀만 가까이 오게 해라 이거. 라인 클리어만 해줘.
타워 치면 끝내만해.
녹턴 1초.
아, 괜찮아.
끝내. 타워.
나이스. 잘했다. 다음 경기 보자.
굿.
이게 최후의 승자죠. 빅게임의 악마 모드 온.
아 제발 나이스.
꺾이지 않는 DRX.
Hey, welcome back to the space, everyone, as Round1 Life Esports leads 2-0 in this first best of 5 playoff series. And guys, silver linings, it got a bit better this time. Not sure it's gonna be enough, but it was less bad.
It wasn't as bad. I think if the game went on, if the series went on for another like 7 games, maybe it'd get to the point where it's good. But I think the draft is better. I think that's what we can start with. I feel like, you know, we talked about the lack of ability to pair up with the Nocturne. They put the Ari with it, the Sivir as well, really helped people to get in position. And honestly, the Alistair as well meant that Beryl's able to survive longer when he's going for those aggressive angles.
Yeah, I think if this draft actually plays out at a fairly even game state, you have a really strong 1-3-1 because you have Jax, you have an Ahri can push really hard, and then the Nocturne kind of links those champions together. And the Sivir has incredible wave clear, even without Shiv in the mid lane, so you could just constantly put pressure on the sides and then look to actually force fights when Hanwha Life come in to try to punish you. But unfortunately, they fell behind, and they were still trying to hard force like they did in game 1 while behind, and it generally didn't work out.
Yeah, I think part of the problem as well is that so many great things went over to the side of Hanwha Life Esports, like the Yone and the Aatrox as well. And Rascal's really been struggling this series, despite the fact he's had, you know, the Jax is a super high priority pick and is fine into the Aatrox, and he also had the Rumble and the Renekton last game. Both games just gapped in lane, if we're being honest.
I mean, that's the thing. We know how good he is on Jax, but I have some questions about the draft here. If you know that you're going to take Jax as the first pick, why would you ban Sejuani? And also, what do you think of the bans in general, given the fact that I feel like Hanwha Life Esports got a lot of OPs on their hands? You have Maokai, you have Aatrox, you have Rel, that's a really good champion as well, and I don't think you want to leave Xayah, but...
I think I'm totally with you in terms of, like, the ban priority here is quite odd with the Jax priority. If banning Sejuani does allow, like, Renekton and Sejuani to be better than Jax, but, like, banning Azir as well here, and Zeka, he had an okay performance in game 1, but it feels like a throwaway ban, and they're getting so much stronger picks, and banning Kai'Sa away on blue side consistently is another issue that they're running into. Just don't look comfortable in this meta at all.
Draft aside, we know how both these compositions want to play into each other, but let's review the first highlight we have, because, guys, as we said, disastrous early game on the side of DRX.
This is a really strange call from Kroko here, and Fate's not on the same page as him as the memes or the cast we're going with, but like this is just not the kind of play you want to be making as early game Nocturne. And then after that happens, we go straight into this first fight, and while it looks like it's starting off really well here because you have an isolated target here in the front line, you blow up the Maokai, the turn of the Rel that they first isolated is just incredibly strong here when you have a Yone to follow it up. And like this is one of the strongest pairings in early game fights you're ever gonna get. And yeah, you push the Rel out, but you gotta know she's coming back.
And I feel like, honestly, the target selection from DRX has been really bad both games, where they'll commit so heavily onto a tanky target, and then they end up clumped chasing down that target. The enemy team turns around with some AoE. We saw it there, like the Yone ult into the Aatrox. It's like committing that hard onto a Maokai. Clearly the focus is like, kill the Maokai, don't let him get Herald, but it's like you're just guaranteeing that you're losing the fight.
And I think that's something we've been criticizing on the side of DRX a bit too much, but rightfully so here. The fact that they commit on the wrong target sometimes, and that the team is just not on the same page. Until the second fight that we had, which was the third Drake, I believe, where for once, this is how they want to play fights, and I had hope watching this.
Yeah, I mean, this was just a really nice teleport flank coming through from Rascal, and Hanwha Life did the same thing we saw in our previous highlight, where they clump up, actually, but Rascal waits patiently here, sees the opportunity when the Nocturnal comes through, so with the Paranoia, they find this, and usually we don't grab clips of the team that loses even in winning team fights like this, because it doesn't tell the story of the game. I wanted to get this to show there is proof that DRX actually can work together. There is proof that this team can be coordinated, and this draft does have functionality. And yeah, this is a very ideal case. Like, you're not going to get this fight every time, but there's hope yet in this series, potentially, if they can find that synergy, because it's very rarely there, but there are moments.
You can clearly see how the comp is supposed to work, and that's obviously the difference, is we felt like they had that Adam ability from game 1. We have the beautiful flank that comes in, which is clearly what Beryl was trying to go for in the first game, and then immediately everything syncs up, everyone's in together, and it was one small fight in an entire game where they did manage to pull that off again. But it's good to see that, like, at least we can see the theory being played out. So game 3, the plan has to be to do that more and more.
And players just have to show out together. I mean, Fate is trying his hardest, but we just need the rest of his teammates to join him here. But focusing a bit on the winner side here, let's reveal player of the game, as we had Life in game 1, and we have Kingen in game 2. Great champions for him, and yeah, great performance.
Honestly, really was quite strong in lane. It played into the Jax. They prioritized super high and crushed lane, and then in team fights always followed up really well on the engages we did see from Grizzly or often from Zeka, and was just the main character, quite frankly.
I think even when fights started to go, you know, at points, the start of them would be okay for DRX. It just felt like they couldn't answer the Aatrox. Like, every clip you see, he's like full HP. Other people on Round1 Esports are dropping down, and this Aatrox is just running rampant. And it's kind of like, DRX like, look, if we just pretend he doesn't exist, he can't hit us. And that's just absolutely not true.
It's fine, just close your eyes, guys.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly one of those fights you're talking about where it looks like, oh, maybe it's okay, but then Kingen's at full health and he wins the fight after everything is on cooldown. There's not a lot of lockdown for that Aatrox, so 7 out of 11, a few more votes going over to Zeka. Again, unsurprising.
It's a fair split, yeah. I think his Yone was good. I think definitely for us, Kingen edged it out, but I don't think, yeah, reasonable votes.
And you know that Zeka is comfortable when he pulls the Yone, so we'll see what happens next if Round1 Esports can close out the series 3-0, or if the reverse sweep is on the way. Back to Casters for game 3.
Thank you, Spacers, once again for breaking that one down, as yes, we will have to see. Game 3, it all comes down to this. Will the reverse sweep begin for DRX? Or will Round1 Life continue with their sweep, which has been quite dominant so far?
And if I wanted to infuriate some barrel antis, then you know this doesn't matter. All he cares. No, I'm not gonna make the joke. I think that DRX have clearly shown that there are moments where they can match Hanwha, but the reason why so many predictions were so one-sided is that Hanwha just doesn't lose to teams that are weaker than them. They have a really big difficulty. I don't know if it's mental, I don't know if it's the style of gameplay that they provide, but when they play against Kitty, when they play against Genji, I think they look a lot weaker. But when it comes to being a well-rounded, consistent team that has any player at this point that can carry, it's gonna work out, right? The only player this entire series that hasn't really carried has been G-Riz, and that's because he's been Maokai. Like, that's not the point, as DRX are also identifying that and are trying to amend the situation. And I like trying to go for some Hail Marys in draft. This is game number 3. If you lose this, you're out. Gonna try and take some risks. Just don't be one of the Jacks. That's all I ask. I don't think that pick is so good to the point where you need to be one for Rascal, particularly because he got smacked in the 1v1, which then snowballed after Kingen picked up a few early kills.
Well, Kaisa is open, so this could be your angle.
Oh.
Okay, well, never mind.
So it's going to be...
you ban the Maokai, you get the Kaisa open, and then you first pick Xayah.
So I think that they would assume that Hanwha would respond with a setup where you go for Kaisa and then any of the remaining powerful junglers, which actually they're going to go for the Nocturne pick away here. Nocturne Nico. I like that combo. Might be Round1 Life going in and say, hey, we'll show you how it's really done.
Yeah, and maybe they can, but you're still going into Xayah alone. And yes, the Azir is banned. Yes, the Maokai is banned, but those aren't the only two champions that can disengage well. And Xayah alone being held up here as the first card for DRX. Not sure about these ones. Round1 Life's esports' execution is really going to have to be great.
RE5 is what I'm leaning towards here. Need a strong mid-jungle. It's been a consistent theme, really, I think, as we have moved away from a bot lane-focused patch throughout the course of summer. Obviously, bot lane and AD carry still extremely important in team fights, but with how a lot of the games play out, it's about mid-jungle. Do you have pressure in mid? Are you able to rotate the sides? Can you take the enemy jungler out of the game? Can you pick up the early objectives? It all comes down to that, and the mid-jungle for DRX have not looked great this series, mostly due to Croco not really performing to the level that we saw of him this past week. Hanwha Life are going to be able to pick up the Kai'Sa nonetheless. And Nocturne Kai'Sa, very strong. Nocturne Nico, very strong. Getting all three.
Nico Kai'Sa? Quite
It's fine.
good.
I mean, I think
High tier.
the picks individually very strong,
Yeah.
but getting all three of them, team fights are going to be a nightmare to play out for DRX.
Yeah. I mean, at least DRX move into this and they say, well, we're not going to focus on picking this first one for the top lane. We're going to try to play around the Xayah. We're going to try to make something of this, draft a lot of disengage. We know, especially now, that Hanwha Life Esports are going to be going pretty hard in the paint, let's say.
I wouldn't mind if
this
Viego
draft.
Here. Don't think that the matchup for Viego is necessarily great into Aatrox, but just for the combo with Ahri. Also, you don't have to ban Rel, given that you've already locked in the Alistar here. I hope that DRX actually utilizes that space as well, and they do. Banning Aatrox after last game.
Oh, there's
very
no more top
understandable.
laners left. Oh, I guess Cassandra.
What?
left.
Oh, it's going to be R from Cassante, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Aatrox, Jackson, Renekton all banned. You can't play anything else. This is the LCK. And it looks like they're still going to play Rel.
Hey, Rumble's still open.
Life's Rel was really good in the last game, even going into an Alistar, so...
Yeah, I don't mind the Rel. I think the Alistar pick, it neutralizes, but it doesn't take away the full power, right? We even saw that in the last game. Just means you need to be more deliberate with how you engage, and I do think in lane it really neutralizes a lot of what makes the Rel really oppressive. How are DRX going to close this one out? Not surprised at all by this, but it's going to have to be a blind pick. It's probably going to be just Cassante here for Rascal. I think that's what you're looking towards, and it's not exciting, but I do think the composition for DRX worked well. You have a very strong top side. You know I love me an R5 Malphite.
Yeah, it's got a pretty good lane into Cassante. I was thinking Ornn, especially because it's Kingen, just more reliable engage. They are considering the Poppy here, which doesn't really fit with the composition, but...
It doesn't spark as much joy for me. I think Poppy is a pick that has incredible amounts of value though into the DRX comp. I do agree, I think that Malphite specifically, like the way Malphite can use Nocturne Ultimate obviously is that it can already be hard to flash if Maokai like flash ults. If there's a Nocturne ult, you basically have zero indication of where he's going to come from. But playing into Cassante with all his mobility, playing into Viego, and playing into the Ahri, I do think the Poppy still has an incredible amount, and it gives you some much-needed secondary follow-up that Life can also utilize as well. If Life goes in, there's someone that can follow. But I would have loved Malphite. I really like the champion.
Yeah.
And not going to be the case still. I think Hanwha have an incredibly strong composition here, and DRX fans, for the third time in a row, I don't really mind the draft. I think that the draft number 1 was ambitious, didn't end up panning out. Draft number 2, if they played better, could have worked. Draft number 3, maybe that's the one where we start the turnaround, but I don't think that Hanwha Life are going to be sad when they get Nico, Nocturne, and Kai'Sa in one draft.
That did happen, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, definitely a very strong mid-jungle duo. They also get Parakonda Xayah. He has been very strong on this pick. His feathers, his blade callers rather, have been pretty immaculate. So we'll see if these pieces will be enough to defeat what Hanwha Life have as a stacked draft in their own right. Let's hop onto the rift for game number 3. We have our upgraded playoff cheers coming through. We get them for this, obviously, the call-outs for the teams, but also during an ace, during First Blood, during the player introductions as they came down the stairs one by one.
Those I really liked. Those were cool.
Yeah.
The ace ones, I think both me and the audience still need some time to get used to them.
Yeah.
As Barrel might get caught off guard.
I think they saw hit the Rel on the ward.
They did ping. So I think that they were at least aware that there were some shenanigans going on, but we'll now have full knowledge of what is happening. Are we going to see vertical jungling forced here by Hanwha Life? we'll see. Splitting the map away from the Alistair and Kai'Sa actually can set up some really threatening early game scenarios. Nocturne's early ganking obviously isn't the best, but if you can deny early control of the wave and keep Paddock and Barrel level 1, neither of them are very strong right early on. Could provide some opportunity to go for a dive. We'll see if Half-Life actually sets up for that, or whether we're just going to get a swap here. And both junglers are just going to match. It looks like Croco instead.
Yeah. No, he ain't matching anything. He is looking. I
kind of like this.
To steal this.
They have no idea.
And the timing is going to work out. Croco's right here, lands the stun. Grizzly has the fear down, but it might just come down to a smite. He's going for it. He gets it and dies. First blood over to Croco.
And Croco has not had the best series, but this pathing works out huge.
Oh, nice little play from Barrel 2. Level 2 is picked up, but it is going to trade flashes with Viper, who will stay alive.
And that one is really nicely done. That by Croco. Obviously, the early game, very favorable. What's crucial here is as Nocturne, you're always going to be very susceptible to these early plays. So as well, Grizzly going for the fear on level 2 as well. Actually ended up being very detrimental, right? So you can go for fear if you want to keep your clear a lot healthier. He did start solo, but you don't have your spell shoot, which normally you get for the passive attack speed. Allows you to clear a lot faster. But more importantly, would have been good if a Viego walks up and W's you.
Yeah.
And really big difference here in this game, because I think this is the first time that DRX have had an early game lead. They had the 1 lead after the fight. Now, is that enough by itself?
Game 1, too.
Did they early on as well?
I believe so. At least a little small.
Yeah, they had some good.
One.
Yeah, they had some good bot lane plays actually as well. I forgot about that. They forced some sums.
Barrel was out on the map and stuff, but this one definitely feels nicer at this point. As Grizzly level 3, so is Croco. It's going to help push the lanes out, essentially, at this point. That's all they're pretty much there for. We do have Life moving up from the bottom side, trying to secure a Rift Scuttler for his jungler.
So what's important to note is that Grizzly still is able to do decently when it comes to the farm. Because as Arrow does not get it, would have been big, does run away, which is good, because Life definitely could have killed him otherwise. Croco is going to be ahead in gold, but Grizzly will still be fine when it comes to experience, because he was able to then get his own topside jungle. As take another look here.
나 우리 레드에 와드 받고 체크할게.
He's going to ward and check, basically, is what he said. He was calling for this as he was doing Wolves, so.
야, 잡았어!
Got him! With that kind of energy. Here is Barrel.
The cow!
Viper does not have flash. He is moving away from them as they do have the Nocturne making his way down, but Croco is on top of Viper already, who looks to be going down pretty much for free. Grizzly's here, but it's way too late. Another kill into the hands of DRX.
Giving the kill over to Paddock there as well. Really like that. If you can get the Xayah ahead, takes away so much of the potential for Half-Life to try and go for these big engages. Having the extra items early on means that you have to respect a lot more. And Croco, together with Barrel, actually syncing up this time around. Do see the response from Half-Life. Grizzly has just been power farming. Also now going to start up the Dragon here. If he does get spotted though, I do think they could bully him off, but they do spot him now. And they should not allow him to do this. And he will have to peel off. Even just the mist. There was enough to zone him away. Cute play there from Croco. Not going to be the end of the world. Grizzly wastes a little bit of time, but a lot of his camps are down. So we'll be able to just get back to farming, but...
Yeah. It's kind of been the story for Grizzly this game. You know, die, but still ahead in farm. Not really be there on time for the bottom side, but still able to get on the Drake first, but then he's spotted, and he's got his camps up. So he'll get back to farming, but it's still a 1,000 gold lead here to DRX early on. It's a kill on Viego and Xayah as well, so very important. Top lane, you don't really have that same kind of, okay, Kingan's playing Aatrox kind of win condition this time around. Like, Poppy's great, but she's also not going to solo carry a fight. like an Aatrox could.
No, and once you fall behind on the team with Poppy, or value severely diminishes. As we take another look at this, they don't care about life, right? You see here as well, even though Croco hits life with his W, doesn't really matter. Viper is just forced in an awkward position because Baron and Puddock force the early flash, so it kind of snowballs from there. And as we said at the top of the day, Viper and Life, when we get to team fights, impeccable, right? Really strong duo. Life has been able to even get POG in his Nautilus game, even though they did actually get, I forgot if he died, but they definitely did force his summoners early on in game number 1 as well. And that continues to be an exploitable weakness here for DRX. Now, is that enough? We'll have to see. But at the very least, it's a good start here. As man, Jiris can't catch a break at this one.
Yeah, and it really just comes down to great awareness and play once again, as we've been focusing on from both Croco and Beryl, to get the vision down, to track the enemy jungler, to know exactly where he's going to be and at what time. So it's just vision, but it's the building block, it's the foundation of good macro play, as it always has.
Beryl still has flash.
Yeah, Beryl maybe looking to try to make a play. Got it back. Viper also has his. Grizzly just...
Still not 6. Oh, hits it actually off of the wave there, as well as the ward.
Yeah, could to make a play onto the Xayah here. Puddock is level 6 with Cleanse and Flash, though, so I don't think that's a good idea at this point in time. So just going to go ahead and threaten it as Grizzly just going to take out the ward. Might get
Fate
here. Oh, they're going over the wall. They're just trying to kill him here as the spell shield is there, but Grizzly cannot catch a break, and he is going to try desperately to survive, but he cannot do anything against the two of them, Fate and Croco. Pulling together the Ahri Vi, making everybody's life difficult.
And we needed to see Croco and Fate take over this game. With Vi and Viego and Ahri.
I did it first.
Yeah, you got me. It's fine. It starts with Vi. So
true.
Vi stands for Viego. I'm sure that's one of her voice lines. The Viego and Ahri combination really stands or falls by how much you can get done early, because if you can play extremely aggressively, and if you hit any charm or any W and you can blow a target up, the composition works flawlessly, right? You get the reset on Viego, Ahri gets to go in aggressively, you buy a lot of space for the rest of your team, you have a very reliable front line with the Alistar and the Cassante as well. And if you don't do anything, then you get to mid-game team fights and you don't have a lead, and then you try to go in. Everyone that you try to go on will survive your initial burst, and you'll be in deep trouble. And identifying that Jiris might have some weaknesses here again. This is a player who's playing his first playoffs, is getting singled out here. I don't think Hanwha Life is in an unwinnable position by any means, but early game looking good here for DRX. Maybe gives us hope for some longevity in this best of 5.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is exactly what DRX need to do, as Beryl is holding the wave here for Puddock. And you can see that Viper just going to sit down on the bottom side. The Rift Herald hasn't been taken yet. It looks like DRX making a big play for it now, after all the bottom lane shenanigans with the Dragon and stuff like that. And actually Viper is now moving up the river with a teleport into mid from Zeka, as they may consider going in on this fight, actually. Some pings going down.
Fade TP as well.
In here, looking to helicopter the Cassante away, as now the Paranoia immediately in, trying to burst down the Rift Herald. Should be able to take it down, but it's not clean. And Beryl is zoning everybody with a Pot Blossom is huge, as in goes Life as well, and everybody just gets womboed again. As this keeps happening, as Puddock as well is alone. No way to get away from Viper. The stun comes down, and it's an ace 10.5 minutes in.
All right, I waited for it this time around. As Hanwha Life showcasing how this composition can work. DRX were unable to pull it off in game number 1. Hanwha Life do it here in a game number 3. And we go all the way back. This, great play, wonderful. 2v2, 3v3s. This is where the composition of DRX should excel. And they're able to take out Grizzly and get themselves a Dragon. Then here the Rascal gets outsmarted by King and holds onto his cooldown for a little bit longer, and can't really afford that, because without that, There is no backline. And then here's Zeka, the flash, multi-man, and Life again with these Magnet Storms dragging in Paddock. Paddock gets a great recall, but it's not enough damage because the damage dealer's already dead. And Rascal is there, but doesn't actually get anything going. Just ends up getting taken out as we might try to gank Viper here, but there are a lot of reinforcements.
He's got flash, still gets knocked up in a lot of trouble as Beryl, the cow, is tanking up the turret. Nearly dies actually on the backside of this, and Viper will be okay, but he did have to flash away from this one. The W coming through. Not going to hit Beryl. Stutter steps there just a bit.
And it's not ending the world for DRX. But one more like that, and it very well might be, as Paddock doesn't have any sums, no ults.
Yeah, he's just going to get stunned up. And unfortunately, this duck has swum his last river. As
dramatic.
Yeah, it's very sad, actually.
Sad.
I don't know why I said that.
Why would you do that, Veldis? Man.
Sorry. Paddock's got a great future.
You know how emotionally vulnerable I am?
It's okay. He has Worlds qualifiers.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
I feel better already.
Yes, the duck will swim once again. No worries. Sunfire Kid picked up here first by Kingen, so Ox on the desk will be very happy. And we saw the value of the Poppy in the last fight. Just yeet an enemy away, and then, you know, you can't all out your team.
Yeah, it does feel like Rascal as well, still not really getting the performance that we need into this series. One of the reasons why the Cassante actually has done well into Poppy is because you can cancel it as here Life. Really nice Hex Flash. As, oh boy, Grizzly.
Yeah, he's going to get over the wall. Here's Zeka, and they see him. The paranoia comes through, and that should be enough Pop Blossom just for good measure, as we do have some action on the top side. The helicopter coming through, but he does deny it, and Fate's going to get this kill. Cassante tanks up a lot. Rascal finally goes down. As I don't think Fate has enough damage to take out Kingen, actually, so he's just going to run away.
Like, no. Yeah. Sitting on Merc Treads in a lost chapter, I don't think you're taking down Poppy. And crucially there is that DRX actually trades the 2 kills over, because if they don't, then it is truly disastrous. Also, Grizzly actually bouncing back so well here, able to get the fear off. Then Croco, even with the Heartbreaker, is able to actually escape Grizzly. Grizzly's looking for the reactivation for his ult, doesn't get it until a long time has passed. As
no.
Paddock, he does have his ult this time.
Yeah, just trying to force it here, I suppose. He's going to hold on to it, but he is not a force in this lane anymore. So he can't stand here. He's going to miss a whole wave. Viper gets some alone time with the turret, and I suppose Beryl, who is going to join up.
Yeah, I think you should just ult. As
Croco
making his way over. Teleport as well. Grizzly's here. No ultimate available.
Yeah, the teleport is in, and Viper is just left to the wolves, I guess. He's just going to ult the opposite way, and Life's like, I don't know, man. I'm just going to get out of here.
Oh, that might be Dragon. Second Dragon here would be big. Meanwhile, Zeka in mid. Using the Herald.
Yeah, just mid-turret down, just like that. 14.5 minutes in, but as you mentioned, this Infernal Drake should be going into the hands of DRX.
There's a TP here for Rascal as well as Paddock.
Nice amount of burst. Doesn't even have to go into the Featherstorm, as the charm is going to miss. Grizzly does flash over it kind of looked like. Nice burst from Zeka, and we have another Hex Tech Soul here for Game 3.
Now, it's really important that DRX were able to get... I don't know about this, Grizzly.
Yeah, he's pretty dead. This time the charm is going to come in. It takes him a while, though, and Beryl now in a rough spot. The game is getting down and dirty now, as they are way in the enemy jungle, are DRX, but they get the pick, and they will get out.
Still looking tenacious, are DRX. Not giving up just yet. Start to see Grizzly really struggling a bit here, able to stay alive because Fate, Beryl don't get the perfect timing there on the headbutt into Charm combo. He gets the flash out, but then is under the impression that he can take a jungle camp, which DRX have been very adamant about. That is not allowed this game. As we do have Life in deep trouble.
He's going to have to flash this wall, but the follow-up from Heartbreaker is free. Gets a shutdown as well, does the Viego. And I do not know what's happening in this game. They were looking for a long dive onto Rascal, but instead it ends up just being a Rel face-checking into Viego and Alistair.
If DRX can make this match devolve into chaos, I think it's very, very favorable for them, which is interesting given how the composition of Humble Life should be able to respond to threats. As
how does this keep happening?
Still going!
And Barrel's going to get very low, but it doesn't quite matter. He lives. Life is going to Magnastorm. Nothing. The Pop Blossom again, though, is huge. Zeka, now it's his turn to say, come on, guys. I got to carry you up. And he will be able to, in fact, as now finally the threats on the side of Humble Life Esports come on over. Viper is given a free team fight to take everyone out. As Zeka, man, this guy already has my PUG heart. Already got that box checked, as it's another ace that I talk over this time.
And let it be known, DRX, they like the messy fights, Humble Life. No, we're going to try and look as it starts off, as it does so often, with Barrel. Goes in, sets up Grizzly. Nice dodge there. It does take a fair amount of time to actually go down, but because of the paranoia, they don't actually spot Zeka until it's already too late. Triple knock-up. Alistair dies immediately, and then the teleport comes in. Rascal, I don't know if being in time would have really helped there. I don't think that anything would have changed after Zeka got that multi-man ultimate, and Viper was untouched in the fight. And the target selection from DRX a little bit lackluster in that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And the 1v9 angle is real right now for Zeka, who is just dunking on his opponents team fight after team fight, and might just be a series that Humble Life 3-0 with 3 different POGs.
I'm like, why does Viper have purple hands? It's because they got the Herald. Like, I'm looking at the time like, wait a minute. Picked it up. Will be probably thrown down in mid, depending on the timer of this dragon, as Barrel was not done.
Yeah, Barrel.
That's a poppy though.
At this point, I'm actually totally fine.
You know what?
As now
let's try.
They're trying to bait this one in. He's just going to flash Paranoia used defensively.
That's big. That's Paranoia gone. No flash for King, and could be a setup here for DRX.
I think he'll have Paranoia for the Drake fight, though.
Should be, yeah, he's level 11. Yeah, definitely will have it available as well. Also sitting on a number of ability haste. I don't know the exact number, but it is a lot with, you know, Stride Breaker.
It's a high number.
Jam and then his Coal Fields. A lot of ability haste, yeah.
Viper's done a lot of damage in this game, which is being highlighted. Really hope we don't see any media votes for Viper in this one. He is going to throw down the Rift Heralds.
And you want to deny him his vote?
Yes.
When he put down Rift Herald?
Yes, I do.
Feldes, I didn't take you for a Viper anti.
In this one, I am a anti-Viper POG, let's say.
I'll take it.
But we'll see how it goes. Maybe he can have some big fights later on. And
no, I'm right there with you.
Pulls the vote, you know. Pulls the vote. He gets out there and does a little campaigning. But let's see how it goes in
some
this
parties.
third game. Yeah.
Maybe a mixer or
everybody
two.
loves pizza. Unless
I don't know if pizza is enough to, you know, really. I think you need to do something more impressive. No? Yeah,
so
Valdez is like
not a pizza party?
No.
That's the best kind of party.
I love a pizza party, but if you're trying to get votes, I don't know. You know, get some cheese involved.
There's cheese on pizza.
Yeah, but not the same type of cheese. I'm talking like
mozzarella
a nice,
cheese is great.
I don't disagree. Mozzarella cheese is great, but it's not like a nice charcuterie board. You know, you have your cheeses, maybe some grapes.
Next, you're going to be saying there should be some wine involved.
Well, I'm not about
Let's
that.
not get out
you
of
know
hand,
that.
Okay?
I don't want to go crazy. I'm just talking about snacks, okay?
Okay. Maybe some nice saltines.
Some bacon-wrapped figs. Sure. That's a nice snack.
Sure.
As the dragon is unceremoniously going to get taken here.
Zeka wants to hold on to the team's Raptors. Not really able to do so. As has been the way of this game.
The trade of Raptors for Drake.
Yeah. It's just multiple little dragons. That's what the Raptors are.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. It's not quite as good as the one big dragon.
Because dragons would be you know, dragons are close to dinosaurs and chickens are basically just dinosaurs.
Yeah.
As are raptors. You know, I can see it.
There you go.
Kingen.
Uh-oh. A little bit of a rough spot, all out immediately, and this is a really long lane. He also has the Zaya, but he hits both of them out. Somehow is able to widen that helicopter, as now they're just going to start up the Baron.
And no one is in position to respond. Rascal does have TP available. Fate is in the mid lane, but can Poduk and Barrow get her in time? Defensive TP to come through here from Kingen.
And the Baron damage is pretty slow, actually. The turn coming in from King and just trying to zone away Kroko at this point. The Paranoia as well, as he's just going to take the gate on in. The Pop Blossom not as good this time. The stopwatch, huge on the side of Faith, but already Poduk is down. And that might be enough, but they do take out T-Riz. And now the damage is coming through. Viper trying to rejoin this fight, but Barrel's going to deny him. Don't have that kind of damage. As now the W also going to miss. And the follow-up coming in here, as Kingen will be bullied by 4 members of DRX, and the Viego is beginning to pop off in a big way.
And it is the resets. Kroko and Fate gets to actually take out individual targets one by one. That was a very messy fight, right? Grizzly trying to zone, as did Kingen, as they're going to try and contest here.
All right, that's W reset. Zeka joining on in. He's got full health as well. Barrel trying his best, trying to zone away the Kaisa, and they should be able to take out Viper, but the damage from the Nico is huge. The Q comes in. Croco now in the chase, and they stopped the Baron, but could be a lot of gold over here to the side of DRX. Let's see what Zeka can do as a big Pop Blossom comes in, but Cleanse is there. And I think with the stun now coming on in, Zeka will go down. They give the shutdown as well over to Poduk.
And it might not be enough to get the Baron. I think that the lives of Zeka and Viper in the short run gonna be worth it to deny that objective. But again, I want to draw a look at how messy this fight is, which is exactly what DRX are looking for. We have Kingen fighting, and then once Viego pops over, a lot of damage here goes into a Fate, and Poduk, Fate with his stopwatch, actually is able to keep himself alive. And then here, we have Barrow and Rascal making sure that Zeka and Viper aren't actually in the fight. That headbutt was so big, because without it, the damage isn't there. And Fate and Kroko, with the 2 of them, can take down any target if they have enough time, as we're not done!
Oh boy, here we go again. It just never ends. The chaos coming on through. They're zoning away Kingen, but the Paranoia.
T-Riz!
And they have vision of this. They stop the Baron damage, and T-Riz goes in. He's just going to die. That's no smite here for the side of Hanwha Life. And it's Baron over to DRX. As Kingen may get away, but DRX are coming back in this series. Kingen gonna knock him out. And the slow from the Q comes in, but the steadfast presence in the taxi onto the Raptors will be enough.
And Kingen is gonna get away with his life. Jira's really having a tough one in this one. The Nocturne stocks in this series are not looking too hot. It really is the type of champion where once you start falling behind, you go in and you die. Yeah. As we do see, DRX now able to swing the gold back in their favor. And Hanwha Life, game's not over, but if we can keep it, or if DRX can keep it this chaotic, can keep these continuous 2v2s, 3v3s, Hanwha Life never getting the time to set up type of fights going, I think that they have a good shot at bringing us to at least the game number 4.
Yeah, it definitely could happen. I do feel like you know, they need to continue with what they're keeping up, right? Because it's not like a done deal from here. Hanwha Life Esports have proven over a multi-game series now that they are the better team fighting team. Although DRX have had a couple of great team fights that have been very chaotic, but in their favor. They're utilizing the Ari Viego very well. They're utilizing the Zaya's ability to peel for herself just a bit, especially with the Alistair. And now they're going to stake their claim over this dragon, as in goes Barrel. He is going to get the knock up here, but he is alone. And that's just Kingen, as Everfrost used Paranoia as well. And once again, we go into a chaotic fight. Another stopwatch going to come through as the Pop Blossom doesn't hit much, but the Wombo, it begins! And it may just end with the Zaya, though. Poduk's getting huge damage. Nobody able to get on top of him. Viper going in, but might just die for it as he has the all-out on top of him, gets taken out as the rest of the fight was in the lane. An incredibly messy one once again. Looks like it does go in favor of Hanwha Life, though.
Yeah, Hanwha Life should be able to get themselves the dragon off of this, denying soul point to DRX. DRX You have Nash. You're in control of the map. Why?
Don't do that!
Why? You don't need to. Barrel going in barrel way very aggressively there. Kingen is not the target that you're looking for. And they are not even able to get the turret in the mid lane because rotation comes through. Grizzly's going to be able to pick it up. And it just confirms that we have no conceivable way of knowing who wins this game. Well, I mean, actually, it's probably Hanwha looking at this fight. As again, Barrel goes in on a target that is not really killable and is not the one that you should be engaging on. Then there is no Padak here. So a lot of damage is missing. And yes, Fake gets the stopwatch to deny the damage, but he's also stuck in a very bad place. So he ends up actually going down. This is also Quacko's GA that doesn't get anything done here. Not his fault, but it does mean that a lot of the defensive value that pick will have now going to get taken away. As look at that little, you know the Hanwha Live lead is coming.
Yeah, just went on a little journey from blue to red to blue and maybe back to red towards the end of this one. At least that's what we're expecting. Although I don't know. I'm not convinced. I'm not sure at this point. We are gonna have Maw third here for the Xayah. So eventually I think the Xayah is just gonna take off into the stratosphere, especially once those Pop Blossoms don't just, 100-0 her as they were in the early to mid-game fights that we saw. And there it is, the Maw completed. 3 items for both of our 80 carries. Viper does have a stopwatch though.
And
yeah,
it's tougher as well because DRX doesn't really have a great way of applying pressure in side lanes because of Kai'Sa Nocturne. If Fate pushes up and Zeka hits a root or Kingen finds any form of CC, then it's really easy as we do. Yeah, we see the pings. They know. They're like, that's too many minions.
It's really chunking our minions here. They've got some upgraded ones. We still got a Viego in this brush. W is going to hit Barrel. Not doing insane damage just yet, especially because he did go for Rage Blade third, which has been kind of the standard outside of the very occasional case. Deathcap also finished for Fate, so might begin seeing some big, chunky RE damage.
Yeah, because he was only sitting on a rod for a very large amount of time here. And now should be able to apply a lot more damage. Did, unfortunately, due to the previous fight, lose a lot of his stacks on his Dark Seal. Zeka still sitting pretty in that regard. GA now almost done for Grizzly and should also almost be back up for Kroko, about a quarter of the time remaining. And it might just come down to another Baron fight.
Makes sense. It's a very close game at this point, 30 minutes in. A couple of Hextech Drakes to Hanwha Life, but both teams only have 2. And that's not...
I'm waiting for Baron to just
I guess they do. Patching the end of that back as Helicopter probably going to be canceled here. No verdicts to be kept on that one.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for Barrel to randomly flash on top of someone. That wasn't it, but I know it's coming. I know it's
similar energy.
It's about to happen.
Yeah. Probably not Poppy is your best bet.
No, I prefer it not to be. And I think for Grizzly in particular, it's really important that you do not go down too easily. You do have to stopwatch this time around. You do have flash. As Kroko...
yeah, just going to face check Narelle. Had no idea he was in there. The damage not quite there, but Zeka on the chase of the W is there from Viper, and there's the Pop Blossom. Gets the Featherstorm out of Padak, and the Blade Caller isn't even that great. Knocks away the Cassante, as Padak will stay alive for quite a long amount of time, actually, but it's still a one-team fight. The Hanwha Life Esports, I've been saying that a lot in this game. Rascal and Padak maybe looking to keep this Baron out of the hands of Hanwha Life Esports.
Oh, can he get the cancel? That would be big.
Right, gonna face check in. He does get the cancel. He's got Padak right behind him.
As long as you can deny those.
Kingen?
Yeah. Viper is on this Baron together with Grizzly. Zeka backing. There's a lot of TP wards here, and
they see you.
They're coming in.
Yeah. Gonna get on in there. Fate was able to TP back into the fight, but Zeka looking for the angle. He's got Pop Blossom again somehow. As now Kingen just doing a good job of zoning him away, but the Pop Blossom is there. Podok has to flash, and it's Baron to the side of Hanwha Life Esports. They get the big objective, and now they will back away with their plunder.
And Croco dying there to the W with his ultimate crucially available. Not something that you can really afford. Now DRX is going to try and go, but with these Hex Gates, I don't know if you'll actually have the time. Rascal is dead for 30 seconds. They should be able to get this, but can they actually get out?
Well, as you mentioned, they are not going to get it, though, as Grizzly finally has a good moment in this game. He's able to get one at the end here, as, yeah, it looks like Podok should be able to back, but it's just decimation. The Rift is littered with bodies at this point, so we have 39 kills in this game. Life just looking to press the issue, but yeah, it's 3 Hextech Drakes, the soul points to Hanwha Life Esports. They still have 2 minutes of Baron.
As right now, Hanwha Life can keep applying their pressure. Still summoners available on Viper. He can play pretty far forward. A lot of big cooldowns also missing here for DRX. No barrel means your front line relatively lackluster. And if DRX get that Drake, you'd be feeling a lot better, but not the case. Now, Hanwha Life are a little bit bruised and battered here, so ideally I think they try and get it back in before the Baron buff kind of surprises Rascal.
Rascal has a huge amount of MR, and he does have Stone Plate. He's going to proc that here. And the MR very crucial against Viper and Zeka at this point in time, as now they're going to find Beryl, but there is a Blast Cone. He is going to be able to hit it, but the damage from the roots coming in, and the Nico nearly takes him out. Ooh. The Q also dodged. Fate gets the charm here on the Grizzly, as now we're just playing solo queue. Everything is just all over the place. The turns seemingly random, but yeah, not able to take out Beryl. Hanwha Life Esports' Baron push is a little bit lackluster.
I don't know about the TP. It's not been Rascal series. Unfortunately, as we go all the way back, Croco walks into illegal territory here and gets immediately blown up. Crucially though, does actually, if I saw correctly last time, it does have his ult available. If he doesn't, then obviously dying there is just nicely done by Viper. Podok gets a ton of damage down, but it isn't enough. They are really missing the Viego with his resets there. Could have provided an opportunity otherwise. And then here, the ultimate from Grizzly. Yeah.
Oh no!
not the smite that you're looking for.
Podok's setting it up for him as well with the Featherstorm. The Blade Clawler.
Yeah. Mistimed there by Croco and Podok. Ends up going down to like 400 something health. And now Hanwha Life have lost the Baron buff and have like a pretty small gold lead, so I guess we're just gonna wait and see what happens when the next dragon rolls around.
Yeah. That seems to be the the MO right now.
Yeah.
Zeka is a Blast Cone.
That's not where Blast Cones go. They wouldn't fall for this, right?
You know, I think they would, actually.
He needs to get into the middle of the little circle.
It kind of looked a little jank.
It did.
So it might have just been like a spectator thing.
Could have been.
But either way, they're not even going to run into the jungle. So, no Blast Cone shenanigans. As we do have LDR picked up now. 4th item for Podok.
Is it enough? I'm leaning no. I think DRX, their coordination in team fights just hasn't been on the same level as Hanwha Life. And in these really clutch moments, I do still put a lot of confidence in the team with 3 world champions as opposed to the team with only 1. Fate.
It's gone through, you know, it's my jungle, I should be fine, right? No, he's dead. And that is Fate gone. Minute left until the dragon.
He'll be there.
Yeah.
TP. It's actually too early. Come on, Hanwha, get it together.
Well, still a nice amount of gold, I suppose. But, yep, not really the timing for it.
The main benefit of this, obviously, is that even though Fate should be able to join the fight, you can now use the fact that DRX is a member down to push out all the lanes, set up prio everywhere, leave a lot of vision control as we see here, get your back in, and still make your way back to the Dragon and ensure that you have full control of the area as stopwatch now done for Viper. We're getting to 6-item territory here.
Yeah. Zhonya's for him,
Oh,
Death Cap for Zeka.
God.
Also has 10 stacks on his Dark Seal. We have Grizzly looking for the Elixir of Iron. And Viper did not go Death Cap in this game. And he did not go Ludens or any kind of AP Mythic either. So isn't going to be doing insane chunking damage with his Ws, but still will be relevant.
Oh, they spotted. They know about life. Might be able to collapse on him here.
Looks like there's
a ward moving
sneakily. A ward is running around Summoner's Rift. Tell the papers. And the Ws, like I mentioned, you know, they're not game ending, but they are certainly significant. As the damage is coming through, the paranoia is in, but it is going to be stolen. The Pop Blossom is huge. It gets onto that backline as Padaki has an LDR, but he does not have a health bar as Fate desperately trying to take out Zeka. Gets him down to his Zhonya's, but that is about it. I suppose he will kill him. Kingen and Grizzly opting into the 2v2 as we're going to have to zoom out real wide for this one if we want to catch all the action. Rocco and Rascal getting in onto Kingen, might have the damage. Grizzly, it looks like he's tickling them. There's Croco as well, just waiting for the GA. And yeah, I don't think Grizzly's got a chance here as, okay, well, Fate might also be able to take out Life. As here comes Viper, gets the Zhonya's in. Thought it was stopwatch, it wasn't. Fate also on the run here, but I don't think you can get away from the Kai'Sa. R button just pressed to save some time. And DRX, you know, they denied the soul as well. So yeah.
Yeah! That's League of Legends! Fate goes down. We're all the way back. Fate goes down. Walks into a brush, has no control. And then here, it ends up being really messy. The health bars initially are very much in favor of of Hanwha Life, but we do see that the damage actually is something that Potter can survive, and then yes, Viper takes him down, and Rascal was in the fight initially, but we get like Grizzly and Kingen trying to chase Croco. We get multiple people going in as Croco might die here.
He has no idea. Heartbreaker is going to be good. Gets him out, but the R button from Viper. He has some instincts. He's looking to kill as the burn.
Oh!
Will it be enough? No, Croco lives. And yep.
Okay, not even close. This is going to be the Baron started up, and this is gone. 100%. No way that you can contest this. So don't get the kill, but do get the objective.
Yeah, okay, they got it. Croco not in this fight. So he will join up a little bit later on, but let's see if Hanwha Life Esports' second try at a Baron push is a little bit cleaner than the first.
They have the second highest average Baron power play.
They do.
Yeah.
We did see that stat before today.
I did remember. I don't remember a whole lot of other things. This game has been going on forever, and there's a lot of kills.
You think Viper should buy a different item or just stick with what he's got?
I don't mind it as much. With how a lot of these games play out, DRX never actually lets you sit and poke, because Barrel will just go in. And I think that there actually is a lot of value when it comes to the Rageblade in this one. I wasn't really on board initially. I also might be converted to a Boom Boom damage voter by the end of this, because I do think he's doing a lot of damage. Okay, I can be swayed if there's enough of it.
True. I think it's fine at this point. Zeka did have a fantastic early to mid game. His Pop Blossoms have been consistently pretty good. But this game is turning into, okay, well, Life, or rather Viper does a lot of damage, or we might just lose in an extended fight to Xayah. Especially because they're just so messy. Like every single fight. It's kind of insane.
Paddock sitting on a stopwatch as well. Rascal is gone for Nephimas at this point. Has it on Viper. Going to be looking to isolate him.
All right, well, it's a little keeper's verdict to get the Cassante out of the way to take the tower while you have Baron buff. Their siege is Viper. Their consistent damage is Viper.
No range.
Their range, their everything.
Hey, what that gap?
Viper.
No boots.
Okay. Well, now he's just a fountain laser. He has gone that route at this point. And you don't really need the boots at this point, I suppose.
It's 41 minutes into the game, and we haven't had a soul go
really
to
slow.
either team.
He has almost 700. Yeah, almost 700 AP at this point. And he's getting some good resets. Didn't quite land that one. As we're just keeping, if you just look in the bottom left, you can see the cooldown of the Void Seeker here from Viper.
Man, I'm glad that's getting 8% nerf next patch.
Yeah, me too. Now, if we could follow that up with like a 30% nerf.
She is losing 40 health as well, so I think the nerfs will be fine. As DRX, just go in. Don't give time to this Kai'Sa.
Rascal has Anathema's on her.
Come on, Beryl. I know you can do it.
A heap load of MR, okay? And he's still getting dunked on.
Life on the flank.
Yeah.
Fate.
All right, let's see it.
Fake Zeka.
This feels like a challenger's game at this point, but they find Podok in the back. He does get the Feather Storm off. The Q is not good, but he's still dead. As they use a lot, but the Pop Blossom follow-up is beautiful from Zeka. Gets the majority of the rest of the team as Beryl decides he's had enough. He's just going to run away. As it looks like maybe finally Life Esports have done enough to win this game. They don't have Baron buff anymore, but the death timers are just so long. 43 minutes into this one.
That's got to be it. It's also only Rascal and Beryl, right? They don't really have an ability. We see the wave being pulled there towards the top side of the map. That doesn't matter. There's a bot side wave here. And everyone on Hanwha Life is still alive. Beryl, they're going to try, but I don't think it's going to be enough.
Yeah. Well, he has a stopwatch, but he's dead. Paranoia is used as well as the wave is coming in, and Zeka's just keeping Rascal from backing, just consistently rooting him, just autoing him, just following him around the map, and Viper's just gonna join for the kill. They're like, you know what? Let's get the 49th, or actually 50th kill in this game. 50 kills in game 3, but it's Hanwha Life Esports. The big story, they move on to the next round of playoffs. They move into round 2 as they get the very special victory cheer. But yes, it wasn't a clean game 3, but they got the job done. All in a day's work, they say.
I think in this third game, we both see what DRX, if they were better coordinated in game 1 and 2, maybe could have given us for the entire series, and some of the weaknesses of Hanwha Life. Because when things get messy, it does kind of revert back to Viper Life Esports. But Hanwha Life, they take the 3-0 here. We will see DRX at least one more time in the qualifier, but Hanwha Life will now move on as Kingen, I think, actually got an ultimate off at the end there as well on Beryl, which is why there was no Alistair, which could have been a big difference maker. Grizzly, game 1 and 2, great. Game 3, I'm sure his coaching staff of Mowgli and Dandy will have some points for him in that one.
Yeah, absolutely. As a lot of happy Hanwha Life Esports fans in this one, and understandably, I do think that, you know, somebody on the side of the round 2 of playoffs, you know, be it KT, be it Gen G, I mean, it is KT's choice. They might look at this and say, that was a lot of messiness. That was a lot of fun gameplay in game number 3. Maybe we will choose Hanwha Life Esports. Really depends on how the second series does go tomorrow between D+ Kia and T1. But let's say T1 like stomps D+, or vice versa. Maybe you choose Hanwha Life Esports? I'm not sure. Up to KT, of course.
The amount of bears that are hanging from Grizzly's backpack.
Yeah.
And in this third and final game of today, we saw a glimpse of what DRX maybe could offer after some, I think, weak individual performances from a lot of their members in the previous games. When things get a little crazy, but Hanwha Life still very clearly felt like the team that, when it came to the team fighting, had the upper hand. Not in a small part due to Zeka, even though I was in the end converted to being a dirty damage voter.
A boom damage voter.
I was. And if Zeka gets it, I will be perfectly happy, but
it's okay, he will.
It did feel like it was warped here by those two players. And DRX, in the end, it's a 3-0. I think game 3 painted a very different picture than game number 1 and 2, but no one can contest that the better team today in really all 3 of the games ended up being Hanwha Life.
Yeah, they got the job done by the end of it, and they're gonna have to prepare. You know, in playoffs, there's a pretty swift turnaround. Hanwha Life Esports will have tomorrow, and maybe the next day, if KT do not select them. Just to prepare for their next match, another best of 5 against either KT or Gen G. Viper with some big snipes as well. Production giving him some good points, as you should, because his Kai'Sa, once again, very strong, very good stuff. I mean, he had above 1,000 DPM 35 minutes in, and no doubt he eclipsed that as the game went along, and there you could see the Alistair flying by as the rest of the team just died.
Viper as well, that flash tower at the end. Because if he gets caught as well by Paddock, maybe they can clinch the final team fight, but not going to be the case.
Just listening, just calling out, you know, death timers. Personally, I'm gonna go get him. You get him. Tell us. We're gonna end it. They ended it. They were literally just waiting for the kill to happen. Just to get number 50, as I think that's a boom damage vote I'd be okay with.
You'll allow it, right?
Yeah, I'll allow it.
This one time.
I think it's okay. 62,000 damage in a 43-minute game. Pretty good. Well,
what did we learn by this?
Kai'Sa's still strong. Probably don't first pick.
Viper's pretty good.
Viper's pretty good.
That's the takeaway.
Hanwha Life Esports also still quite strong, but we'll have to wait and see what they do have prepared for their next opponent in round 2. But for now, we are done here on the casting desk. Just a quick 3-0. A lot to see in game 3, especially if you do want to go back and watch the VOD. But either way, guys, we are done here. Let's hand it over to the space and see what they had to say about this series.
Thank you very much, guys. A lot of things to say about this game 3, especially a messy one, guys, that lasted for a long time. I thought we would have a series, but in the end, Hanwha Life Esports wraps it 3-0 here in round 1 of playoffs. What did we learn from this series, actually, to follow up on what the casters were saying?
Well, apparently it's possible to be on blue side and give the opponents Kai'Sa and take Xayah herself, which I didn't think would be a thing, which was a bit questionable. But also just Grizzly, you know, I think with Pays and Spring, we kind of had this expectation that, you know, this really shining light as a rookie, doing really well, but of course he'll be good in playoffs. But Grizzly kind of showed a bit of his inexperience in this game, didn't have the best performance, was a bit of a liability. So hopefully, you know, Hanwha Life can shore that up for the next round.
Yeah, and just talking about the draft for a little bit, I mean, the Nico pick once again goes over, and it was Nico, Rel, they're the stars of the show. The Kai'Sa here, obviously great at following up on engages like this. If you have a problem on your setup, you get a Poppy to disengage as well. Really like the draft here overall, whereas on the other side, you're trying to front to back, so don't pick Ahri. You know, like, if you're going to prioritize Xayah, we're not seeing Xayah just yet, then maybe, like, don't ban Azir and pick Azir instead and try to play a little bit more of a disengaged comp in front to back. I just feel like DRX's draft reads were all over the place in this best of 5.
Yeah, I don't understand the Xayah first pick, because, like, you know, historically, Kai'Sa and Xayah, like, Xayah's been, like, the matchup counter, but with how AP Kai'Sa plays now, that long-range poke is a death sentence for the Xayah, and you're first picking it, leaving the Kai'Sa open. I honestly think that from playoffs onwards, Kai'Sa should be like 100% ban on red side. I don't think you should be leaving it open. I think it's just a bit criminal that DRX left, especially Viper as well. Like, we saw what he did with it.
Yeah, we'll see if it's a player of the game worthy at the end of this segment. I know you have some thoughts on this, but what makes me sad mostly is that we knew that DRX was coming as an underdog here, but it came down to the preparation on the best of 5 and the draft priorities that were just off, and they didn't have enough weapons to fight with, which translated to poor early games most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're kind of leading into it, but the early game we saw, unfortunately, in this first one was a little bit messy. We're gonna go ahead and roll the first clip. Let's roll a clip and show some leads did go over, right? Had that early kill onto Grizzly, and then we go into this Herald fight where seemingly have a decent amount of control, and yet we're engaging in, we're sticking around. Beryl is like sticking around for Poduk in early game Zaya to try to hard force, and this is like something that DRX just can't get their minds out of, is we have to win early, we have to hard force, Beryl has to go in, we have to get our AD carry ahead, and you're just walking into AoE ultimates. It's just like game 1. Don't do this.
Yeah, I think, you know, DRX, maybe they've been building some synergy. They're better friends now. Bit too good friends, okay? They're trying to stand next to each other all the time, trying to hang out, and every time you just see Zeka like, oh, I can 5-man Yonel or 5-man Nicole, and just it feels like every fight there were these big clumps on the side of DRX where multiple people have been hit by these really impactful ults, and it's like, okay, well, the fight's done. GG.
It was still a close game though, with DRX stacking up dragons, Hanwha Life Esports struggling a bit. We said that Grizzly was aiming for more stage experience, I feel, here by having a bad game. But what allowed them to stay alive in this game, you would say?
I was just going to say, I feel like some of the mid-game fights they punished really well, and all 3 games, the theme for DRX was we're going to go in no matter what. We're going to fight no matter what. We're going to force no matter what. And the sloppy plays from HLE this time around, I think those hard punishes actually did sometimes come up big. So they forced their way in.
Yeah, I think particularly with champions like Viego and Ari, one person makes a mistake, one person oversteps, one person goes too far. Like, Grizzly was often the person in this game, and suddenly you give him like a whole other rotation of abilities. Ari's got another ult charge, Viego's got another ult usage. So if you have someone misexecuting, other teams just misexecuting their engage, it's very easy with a comp like this for DRX to kind of fight back. But it does kind of rely on the fact that Hanwha Life Esports were misplaying. I think if Hanwha Life Esports were playing cleaner, they wouldn't have got that window.
Let's take a look at one other examples of how the fights played out. 37 minutes into the game here for the second highlight we have. And guys, talk me through what happened here.
Yeah, so initially this ends up like a really good start for Hanwha Life Esports. You know, we have Zeka, who is constantly this entire game look for these fantastic flank angles, and they get this big one. Once again, Poduk does pop the ultimate, but it's too late. But after this is where it gets a bit messy, because we see DRX start to scatter, and Hanwha Life Esports honestly probably should have ended here, but they end up really splitting up for the chase. So you have this big, massive run where you actually saw Life go off the screen chasing the Ari, and then down here you have no damage trying to deal with the situation. It's kind of showing that, you know, Hanwha Life Esports still fantastic in team fights, but still quite sloppy with how they wrap things up.
Yeah, completely. But it allowed them to take the victory here in the end. At this fight, honestly, I was just wondering, are they going to take it? Are we going to go to game 4? It could have gone either way, honestly. And as you said, William, a bit more games maybe on the side of DRX. They could have done it because it felt like there was improvement game after game, even though it was not quite enough.
Yeah, I mean, there were definitely some really good plans that were executed on. I think in that third game, especially the early game from Kraka, was a lot of redemption. I was so worried after game 2. I was even telling you guys I'm ready for a Juhan sub, but at least the early game went well.
All right, player of the game. It's time now. Is it Zeka?
Zeka. Give me that Zeka. Give me that Zeka.
Let's reveal player of the game and see who the panel is. It is Zeka. Okay, nice.
Safe?
Yeah,
I thought we were about to watch a bunch of Zeka highlights over with Viper's face in the corner.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, obviously Viper played AD carry well, was good in the team fights, did the boom boom damage, but I think this clip is going to be like, this reel is going to be 4 clips of Zeka getting 3 or 4-man ultimates every single fight. Every single one. He was just landing these massive, super impactful ultimates, and he was basically just dictating the game for his team. Really phenomenal play on the Nico, and especially after seeing the game one Nico look a bit rough, the angles he found was just phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, constantly threatening Poduk in these late game fights as well made it so difficult. Even though you are Xayah, you have the Featherstorm. If you have to ult away from the Nico and she's still hitting multiple other people, like the fight is always already lost. And if you can't do any damage after the follow-up because you're low health, like you might as well be dead even if you do survive that initial engage. Let's see what the votes look like. A few Viper media voters coming through, including Chronicler, but we broke the tie here. The analysts ring true.
Safe. That was very close. Chronicler, you know, kind of betrayed us a little bit going with the boom boom damage vote. So I'll be having a talk to him. Don't worry. But yeah, you know, respect to the Korean cast and Korean analysts for making sure we got the right POG.
Yeah, saved at the end of the day. A bit of question on the winner here. I remember that at the beginning of the split, we were wondering what is going to happen with Hanwha Life Esports. Are they going to get better? Are they going to play to the expectations we had for this roster? How do we reflect on their improvements as we're going to focus on the rest of playoffs?
So for me, like, this series wasn't that convincing, to be honest. Like, I think Hanwha, they beat a weaker DRX. DRX's prep for this series looked all over the place. The drafts were weak. And last time we saw Hanwha match up against Genji, which I expect will be the matchup that we'll see, they got absolutely dominated. Peanut destroyed his counterpart in Grizzly. And watching the same thing happen in Game 3 with Kroko versus Grizzly doesn't give me hope that Hanwha will be able to cross those next hurdles. I think a lot of it is going to be about the prep that goes into that Genji series now until then. Now, assuming, of course, Genji will be the opponent. If it's KT, whole nother set of problems.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, a lot of people looking at playoffs, it's like KT, Genji, you know, competing in the top two. Who's going to come out on top in the end? With T1 and D+, it's like deliberating who's going to be on top there. I think Hanwha, like, firmly third place right now. And I think a lot of work needs to be done if they need to be able to challenge those top two. I do think they're above both T1 and D+, but obviously T1 can definitely change now with the reintroduction of Faker. But yeah, I think ultimately this series wasn't super convincing, and they're going to have to show a bit of a higher level if they want to be able to take a series in this round two.
But let's hear from the players. Actually, they're ready on stage for the player of the game interview. Maybe they can reflect on today's series. We'll come back right after this. Take it away, dear.
Thank you very much, guys. This is Dear for the POG interview translation. We are here joined by Kingen, Grizzly, Zeka, Viper, and Life on the side of Hanwha Life Esports, who just advanced to the playoffs round 2 with a clean 3-0. Congratulations!
네, 오늘 3대0 승리를 거두셨습니다. 킹겐 선수, 한화생명 이렇게 해서
Kingen, what a clean 3-0. You're able to advance to round 2, so how do you feel? Like, as much as we are targeting and aiming for the very top as a team, I feel like we were able to demonstrate such a clean victory that reflects our determination. And you showcase great Renekton and especially Aatrox plays as expected from someone who owns the skin. So, do you think this current meta is for you? I feel like it was a good thing that Aatrox got a buff. And I feel like all the buff and all the positive factors that we can get from utilizing Aatrox is actually very beneficial for our team. And you are the big game hunter, Kingen. What is your resolution for this upcoming big matches? I feel like as long as we are able to practice the team fight that we have in mind, ideally, we'll be able to go through all the big matches upcoming without any issue. And now next, Grizzly. This is your first playoffs after debut. So how do you feel about your the playoffs? Honestly, I didn't really expect it to be any different from any of those matches that I have played in the past on stage. So you are playing alongside with a lot of the Hyungs that have more best of 5 experiences. So did they help you loosen up? Kingen told me to not be scared, and as long as I stay confident, I will be able to do as well as I normally do. I feel like it really helped that I had a little bit of nerves this time around. And despite it being your first best of 5, you played out your role so amazingly well. What is your resolution for playoffs round 2? Our goal is to get a clean 3-0 in round 2 as well, and I hope that we can display a good performance to climb even further up. So I hope that we're able to achieve that.
제카 선수 오늘 진짜 니코 플레이가
제카.
정말 인상적이었습니다. 제카 선수 오늘
What a
정말 멋진 플레이를 많이
fantastic Nico
보여주셨는데요. 친정 팀인 DRX를 상대로 승리를 거두고 2라운드에
Now,
진출했잖아요. 소감이
you guys were able to
들어보겠습니다.
advance to playoffs round 2 against your former team.
제가 사실
So how do you feel?
정배인 팀이라는 게 좀 어색해서 처음에 아까 승부 예측 좀 나왔을 때
It was very awkward. It felt awkward being against my former team in the playoffs. It could have been, honestly, like a variable factor, but I'm really glad that we were able to win.
제카 선수 또 하나의 기쁜 소식이 있었습니다.
And Zeka,
Player of the Split, 그리고
you were
LCK
awarded
third
Player
team
of the
수상을
Split
탔는데요.
and
여기에 대한 소감
LCK
한번
third
들어볼게요.
team. So how do you feel about those?
정규신에서 좀 그냥 잘했던 거라서 그냥 받은 거라 생각하고
I feel like those are just awards that you get for playing well in the regular season, and playoffs is just completely different. So I want to make sure that I focus on doing well in the playoffs.
최정상 팀들과 다시 한번 맞붙게 됩니다.
Now in round 2, you guys will face the top team. So how will you prepare? In the regular season, we haven't beat KT or Genji yet, so I could be a little nervous, but playoffs is a completely different story, so we'll make sure that we prepare well and we deliver good results for all the fans.
바이퍼 선수 만나보도록 하겠습니다. 바이퍼
Next
선수 오늘
up is
1세트
Viper.
시비르가 등장을 했습니다.
Viper, in games 1 and 2, we saw
Sivir,
Sivir, and
픽이 정규 시즌에는 많이 안 나왔었는데
you played
오늘
Sivir in game 1, and the
보여주셨잖아요.
opponent took her in game 2. It's not really a common pick throughout the regular season, so how did you guys end up picking her? I
가질 수 있는 챔피언들이 좋은 것 같아서 계속 나오는 것
feel like
같고요.
champions that you can
상대가
push
할
and
줄은
wave
사실
clear
모르겠어서
while
나와서
your top side of the map is fighting.
그냥 그런 것
So I figured that this would be the right Sivir to play. So this is more of like a top side pick that you play around for basically your team. So who between KT and Genji do you think you will play in the playoffs around 2?
모르겠고 누구랑 붙어도 사실
Honestly, I can't say
까지 갈수 있다
for
생각해서
sure.
크게 신경 쓰지 않고 있습니다.
자신감 있는 모습 굉장히
We
보기
will
좋습니다.
have to
그리고 바이퍼 선수 그
beat
대전
whoever we are up
하나
against
저희
next
하잖아요.
in the end
앞으로의
to reach the
플레이오프
top, so
목표
it doesn't
들어보도록
matter.
하겠습니다. 각오와 함께요.
앞서
And what is your
말했듯이
resolution
제가
into
모든
round
팀을
2?
다 이길 수 있어야 끝까지 올라갈 수 있고 또 우승할 수 있다고 생각해서
We have to
상대
ensure that we beat
누구든
all the
저희
opponents
최선을
in
다해서
our
꼭
way
승리하도록
to reach the top.
좋습니다. 목표 한
So
발에 이루는
we'll try our
하나 선수의
best
모습을
and make
기대해
sure that we win the
보도록
title.
마지막으로 라이프 선수 만나보겠습니다. 오늘 라이프
Lastly,
선수
Life.
첫 세트 노틸러스로 POG를 받을 만큼
In game
굉장히
1,
좋은 플레이를
you got
보여주셨습니다.
POG
오늘
with
경기력
Nautilus
만족하실
with
것
such
같아요.
fantastic
어떠신가요?
performance. So are you satisfied with today's performance? I feel like some parts went well for today, but there were a lot of mistakes, and I feel like we were ahead of ourselves in some parts. But in the end, there were more good that came out of today's match, so I'm really glad. So what were some challenges against DRX? I feel like DRX has a really good color when it comes to their composition. So as long as we're able to communicate well and thoroughly during the drafting phase, I think that and being able to maintain our good condition throughout throughout the playoffs, I think we would be good. And KT and Genji are two teams that you have associated with in the past. Yeah, there are former players and coaching staff in both of those teams, but we'll make sure that we are the ones that come out on top, regardless who we're against. And Viper, back to you. General Manager Kesman was in the audience leading the chant with their fans. So did you hear? Yes, I did hear them. So would you like to thank your fans for cheering you on today? Thank you so much for the support. We can feel your energy and your love towards us, so I think that's why we played so well, and we'll make sure to repay you by winning the next match. And congrats again! We're looking forward to your amazing performance in playoffs round 2. This will be the end of the interview with the players of the Hanwha Life Esports and Back to the Space.
Thank you so much, dear. It's nice to hear from the whole team and reflect on their performance, admitting the mistakes they made today and looking forward to some improvements again, as we don't know who they will be facing off against, but that's going to be a tough one for sure.
Yeah, and I would think that it's going to be KT choosing whoever's in the other series, and then so they'll be against Gen G, which is rough because obviously they just recently got beaten by Gen G quite handily, but also we never know what could happen. T1 could show up massively tomorrow and that could change some opinions, so we'll have to see how it pans out.
Yeah, it is going to be about that form. I think for me, like, my closing thoughts on today are really just this result was absolutely expected.
Yeah.
Like, we all predicted Hanwha. Everybody except Lauren Hooney predicted 3-0, and it was almost a 3-1, so, like, you guys were very close. But this is a straight up, like, as Valdez has been calling it, the tier list season. Like, they were just on a huge cut above. And this is often what happens at 3rd versus 6th, so not unexpected in any way. DRX still have a chance in that Worlds qualifier, so their year isn't over yet.
Hope is alive. Can Beryl do it a 3rd time? We'll see about this in a couple of weeks. But first, let's focus on the matchup we're going to have tomorrow on our hands. As we said, okay, 3-0, yeah, match result as we said. But tomorrow is what matters here as we move forward. T1 versus D plus Kia. T1 with Faker again. D plus Kia didn't manage to have the consistency also I was expecting from them. So what are your predictions and thoughts ahead of this matchup?
Yeah, so I went 3-2 T1. I think both teams have had massive issues. T1's has more so been the lack of Faker, which is kind of more, the expectation is that with Faker being back in and practicing with him, they should look better, but I still can't forgive some of the underperformances we saw from T1 that weren't down to the lack of Faker, right? We saw a lot of individual mistakes from like Carrier and Owner, so I'm not fully convinced, but I do give them the edge there.
I went the complete opposite. Like, I think it's a hard 3-0 for T1. I think the series is not going to be close either way, but I think the decisive nature of T1 with Faker back in, the team seems to be trending upwards. D+ on the other hand, definitely having some forgettable last few best of series at the end of the season. So I actually think T1 should dominate, but if D+ won the first game, I would not be surprised if it's a one-sided affair the other way. Both these teams very emotional at the moment.
Yeah, I think a big thing for me is the jungle matchup, because Canyon has been very hit or miss, but when he's hit, he has been fantastic, and Owner has, without question, been the worst performing member of T1 so far this season, and obviously a factor of that is jungle is influenced most by mid of all the roles, and he didn't have Faker there, but I still think, like, if one of the junglers gets momentum, if Canyon's on an off day, or if Canyon's on a good day, that could really impact it.
I mean, that's the thing, and he's been dictating how well D plus Kia plays so far. We'll see about this one. I have no clue who's going to win. I would like to know in chat, actually, who do you think is going to take the one tomorrow? But that's all for us here on the side of the space for this first best of 5 series in summer playoffs. Guys, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And thank you for watching, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
리졸! 참 쉽죠? 31일 만에 선발 출전 메이커가 돌아왔습니다. 아래서 관문 돌파.